up his sleeves and to call in a lot of favors. Hidden Figures is a bad movie. I haven't even seen it, and I'm not going to. But I'm just stating the reality of the movie marketplace and the way that the industry works. Now, since January is a dumping ground for flicks, it also means that it's a month-long opportunity for a strategically released film to find its audience and become a sleeper hit. This has happened several times in the past, by the way. Like The Birth of a Nation, Hidden Figures was also brought to theaters by 20th Century Fox, though unlike The Birth of a Nation, Hidden Figures was actually made by 20th Century Fox. And that matters. Nate Parker actually had to roll up his sleeves and to call in a lot of favors and to pass the hat around numerous times until he had enough money to make the movie. And since he was the one who scraped together the financing himself, that meant that he could make the movie his way. This is the reason why, unlike, say, 12 Years a Slave, you had Birth of a Nation that didn't portray any white saviors. There's like one white woman who's shown somewhat sympathetically, but this ain't a movie about making white people feel good. This is a movie about telling it the way that it actually is. And I use present tense deliberately. Slavery isn't over. It never ended. So, Hidden Figures came out of the gate being a product that was crafted by the very same racist forces that did everything they could to kill The Birth of a Nation. And they've given it a big push. Hidden Figures already has an Oscar campaign for itself going. See, that's what they do with movies that they want to succeed. They got their little template. They've got their game plan together. And the movies that white people look at and say, yeah, this movie definitely makes sure that white people feel good about it. Those are the ones that they sit there and support. Everything else, they run into the ground. I mean, all of these blatantly insincere, for your consideration ads that you see online for it. I mean, the only ones that are actually genuine are the ones for screenplay, cinematography. Now, those they're giving a push to, but I couldn't help but notice that don't see too many having to do with for your consideration for Taraji P. Henson or her other two female co-leads. See, that's the way that white supremacy plays the game. You think that you're on the team, but the truth of the matter is you're not. And as for The Birth of a Nation, they're burying that. You're not seeing too much of anything. In fact, I haven't seen anything at all in the way of for your consideration. Now, this movie was just released on DVD and Blu-ray. It got a lot more attention than Hidden Figures, but of course it got the wrong kind of attention. The kind of attention that sends the signals, hey, this is not a movie that's approved of. What are you idiots doing? Having congratulated Nate Parker in the past, you shouldn't have done it. You need to bury it. And just so you know, I was so eager to once again give my support to this movie that even though I saw it, even though I don't really care to build a home video library, I went ahead and got my copy of The Birth of a Nation. Got it on DVD. I considered going ahead and, ripping some scenes from it to go ahead and post with this video, but then I thought last thing I need is to trigger a copyright strike. So that one got it. But for those of you who have not gotten your copy, get it. And not just because of the fact, this is not some nonsense about, we need to go ahead and support it because Nate Parker was standing up to white supremacists. Get the doggone movie because it's a good movie to watch. Get the movie because this is one that is bare knuckles in the face to white supremacy. I saw all sorts of things in that movie that I looked at and said, white people are not going to like it. I wonder why people are so incensed against it. There's one scene in particular.
So that's what's so crazy. I can, whatever I'm getting, that's what I'm getting.
Rebellion at the Turner plantation.
Even if you go full.
And he's gotten the rest of his freedom fighters together at another staging ground, and he asks one of his brothers, what time do you think it is? He's looking up at the sun. Going, what time do you think it is?
Wrong song, huh?
attorney. Nat Turner pauses for a moment and says, "You know, about this time, I've been finishing 2 rows and picking cotton." Another one of the brothers is talking about, I'd be finished trying to clean out the barn or the stables or what have you. Another brother says, I'd be having some prepared for mass.
No, you just need to calm yourself down so you can know. See, that's what I mean by calm the fuck down,
man. It was not a huge moment, but it showed was these guys had their lives.
You fuck, you calm yourself down.
Every breath that they took.
Think about what you need to be done, what you can do, and what you can't do.
What?
That's so you think about what needs to be done, think about what you can't do. Simple as that. You don't try to do more than you can, you don't try to do less than what you can.
How many females are interested in you? Honestly.
More than 7, for like that.
And where are they now?
Well, depending on what, if the border's open, that's the biggest. Why? Why are you bringing them down? No.
I got no reason, just asking.
No. Why?
It has just basically a hard-hitting seed.
No.
Stuff that you're going to be able
I hear you, man.
to see, but it's not
So, look, if you got some females that are interested in you, and you have no way of, every time you call them, it doesn't happen.
It's just the fact that in terms of booking a call, man, that's what it boils down to. It's the only way you can switch and give your information. Period.
And there was one scene where you had this overseer who was saying, I got all these slaves here, he refuses to eat. Going on a couple of days now, you just don't want to eat. And finally what they do is they grind the guy's mouth. And the overseer takes the hammer and it just...
How you trying to smoke and you got the door wide open?
No, Michael.
Really, man?
Just starts knocking him out. And then when the guy's sitting here with
Last week.
blood and broken teeth, they put a funnel in his mouth and shovel food into it. That moment of certain stick.
You losing money?
And while Gabrielle Union made up
That's a little more than that.
herself, talking of basically trying to figure out why the movie could be all about her, maybe the fact that you're asking Gabrielle is the reason why it's not should be. The way that there are 2 rapes that are depicted in the movie, but they take place off screen as they should.
10 cents.
This is not a movie that basically is going to sit here and try to exploit the brutality. It's a matter of showing what it was that these people were going through.
Bounty.
That made Nat Turner say, what, I've been spending all this time justifying the enslavement of my own people, and I've had enough. And another scene that definitely got my attention, and this is not going to be some sort of spoilers review, though if you got a history book, this shouldn't be spoilers at all. There's a sequence where Nat Turner's owner buys a woman in a slave auction, and she winds up being presented as a gift to the plantation owner's sister, who lives at another plantation. So, Nat Turner's kind of got this long-distance love affair going. Don't worry, the movie doesn't become bogged down, but they do, just brief enough scenes to show Nat Turner is first taken with this young woman's remarkable beauty, and he's not the only one who noticed. Some good old boys decide that they're going to have their sick fun with her. They ambush her one night, gang rape her, and she's severely beat to the point she's unrecognizable. Nat Turner has to beg plantation owner to, if he can go see this woman to see if she's all right. When he goes to see her, the scene is, as you expect, disturbing.
die by the sword.
You taught me that. And here, Nate giving a fantastic performance. Nat Turner, he's just cracking up at this point. Not laughing, but, breaking down. It's like, oh my God. Because he realized now what he had done. He sat here and programmed all of these black people with the idea that they were supposed to submit to whatever level of abuse white people decided to mete out. And slaves were supposed to happily bear their burden. Ain't that what he taught? And here he was with a woman that he cared about. And she has been outraged by some white thugs. And here he is just wanting her to simply give the name, tell me who they are. And she's not doing it, not because she doesn't want to, but because of the fact that
she's already brainwashed her.
He indoctrinated her not to. He brainwashed her not to. And it was this moment that struck me more than any other in the film. Because it showed the fundamental immorality that Nat Turner had been inadvertently helping to promote. Now, I'm not going to talk more about the film because I want you to see it. Those two scenes in particular are ones that I took away from it. And I'll tell you right now, the movie is full of scenes like that. I mean, there's no way in the world you're going to be able to watch this movie and just, go back to whatever the world you may have been doing online. This movie's going to stick with you, and it should.
And that's the black birth of the nation. That's the black birth of the nation.
It receives my highest possible recommendation.
I get it on Blu-ray,
But as terrible as the depictions of slavery are, it is the film's depiction of the white characters.
You want to kick his ass now?
Reaches its highest potential,
nice.
and where the movie shows its real strength. Once again, this movie made white people not merely uncomfortable, but it made them furious.
Embarrassed?
No, furious.
Worse than that.
You better do more than that, because they ain't over.
Portray the white racists as mouth-breathing bigots, caricatures like The Blind Side. Hollywood created basically the straw man cutout of a
who produced this one?
Battery low.
Nate Parker.
Nate Parker produced it.
This caricature.
And he got the funding for it.
He got the what?
He got the funding for it. In other words, no white company or corporation gave him the money. That means you can do it. You can do it your own way. That's what we got that one sticky note that says, own your movie. That's not me. Not this movie. Hell no. This movie portrays the white people as pretty much uniformly racist.
Good.
And all white people in the movie are in fact bigots and racists. That's refreshing. That's a change. It's about damn time. But more importantly than that,
they do the casual racists.
It's still nasty looking.
Just being average white people. The guys who gang raped the woman when Nat Turner was mom, they're just average white guys. They're not these refugees from Florence or something. They're not sitting here going, come here, nigger girl. They're like the white guy you would imagine. And the guy who uses a hammer and chisel to knock out the slave's teeth, the guy is actually one of the more admirable figures in the movie. He's not presented as being some, I hate niggers with a passion. Instead, he's just a white guy who
just another day of research. Knocking out niggas' teeth.
Going on just like it. When they tell Nat Turner to indoctrinate black people in Iowa versus
don't put the flames so high on.
Those plantation owners are presented no differently than any other supervisor you probably have on a job. When Army Hammer's benevolent slave owner finally shows his true self, and he threatens to lynch Nat Turner and the other male slaves because they refuse to hand over a black woman to be raped by a fellow plantation owner at a party. When these black men were like, we're not handing her over, Army Hammer was like, I'm trying to make a business deal with these men, and if you mess this up, I'll see all of you lynched by morning.
Damn.
Except he's not portrayed as being a mountain-brothing animal. He's portrayed as
That's his usual. Yep.
Is he portrayed as what?
He's portrayed as the casually talk their racist. So like, I'm
Casual
not.
talk is racist?
Yeah. Not just this, character. Oh, never. No, just the one that's be like, come here, knock out your teeth because you don't want to eat.
Parker, bless his heart, he made it a point that when white people watch this movie, they're going to see themselves up there on that screen.
They're not going to like it.
This is not going to be a comforting caricature. This is going to be the real deal.
Just like the other one. What's the other one?
Oh yeah, the
Fishbowl.
No, the other one we have to get.
Where the Frank Precious living in trailer parks.
Yeah, that one, but the other one.
It's when white people approve of something. That's when you need to be suspicious of it. That's the stuff you need to stay away from.
The father loses his son to a cop killing him. He takes over the whole fucking police department.
Oh yeah. And then the judge and the jury is by the prisoners.
Yeah.
And as a result, black people didn't either. It was only decades later, all of a sudden, we got all of these Malcolm X supporters in the baby boomer community who all of a sudden remember, oh, I love Malcolm X back in the day.
Bullshit.
No, you didn't. And we see it today. Even now, you got black people who are like, well, white people are sitting here saying birth of the nation ain't no good. I'm saying too. Well, you know, I understand why white people are against this movie. I understand fully.
But why are black people?
I understand why they're telling black people that the movie was sold out when it wasn't doing all these little tricks to undermine the film. White people have always feared black people, particularly black men, finally coming for some payback. Because they know that it would be an ass whipping only 500 years in the making.
They're worried about that 500-year ass whooping.
White people are on edge to reality.
That's what it is. They're worried about a 500-year ass
We
whooping.
have been treated by them, and then some of us are looking and going, God dang it, enough's enough. They always control the images, and that's part of how they controlled us, a big part of how they didn't. But here was an image that they couldn't control because they didn't create it.
That's the whole point.
Opposition to this movie was totally understandable.
Now what are you buying?
No, I'm selling is.
Why were there black people who decided to join in on this as well? Instead of a movie that moved the needle like A Birth of a Nation, instead we see black people putting their dollars behind is Hidden Figures, which is just another movie that
Yeah, that's why I didn't like. Yeah, I mean, and that's what I didn't like because all her accomplishments never benefited the black community. Those three black women from Hidden Figures.
It's always if you're
You
accused
know,
of you stand on your own 2 feet, sit around with something aside with white people, you stand up when it's even powerful white people. They ain't trying to promote that. But you sit there and, you go ahead.
Okay, who produced it?
A white person. Yeah. Hidden Figures was not produced by a black person.
You know what? These white folks, hey, it's all right. They'll go ahead and promote that.
Do it again.
Hidden Figures doesn't get power because they never challenge white people.
And not get it done by a white
Instead,
person.
they're dancing and
Get it
laughing.
done by a black person.
That's what the promotional stills are all
Say it
about.
again,
Very interesting.
Do it again.
But do it as
Yes.
so in other words, we gotta do another revamp of Harry Tubman. Is what you're telling me.
And Hidden Figures.
No wonder white people were so comfortable.
Because it's not going by what's name. It's not an accurate movie. If it's not going by what was not written, you go talk to the family. You find out from the family. Instead of reading in the book.
No, he's saying that literally all of their accomplishments went to white people. And he's saying the fact that you have these super intelligent black women that all their accomplishments went to white corporations. And he's saying the difference
like
between
him and
what,
Please don't go bullying yourself. Making this movie making $40 million means anything. It's more, first of all,
I want to come. Who's the one that did the Negro version? Nate, what? Nat, what?
Nate Parker.
Nat Tucker?
Nate Parker.
Nate
Parker.
Parker.
He did the black version of Birth of a Nation. So in other words, instead of seeing the Ku Klux Klan, you see Nate Turner. Nat Turner.
Ryan Coogler put together a hell of a good film. They were like, change this thing really is.
Yeah. Now he's saying Denzel Washington is the best actor around, and he should get an Oscar.
He should have Oscars on layaway because he's old.
A whole lot. But he got an Oscar for Training Day.
Which was, if you think about black empowerment, that was a slap in the face.
I know.
And then what was the other one he got an Oscar
like he
for?
said,
Wasn't Glory the one he got an Oscar for too?
I think so. And then they said, "You kiss a white woman?" Nope. Yeah, his wife is.
Now the only ones who will get anything from this movie's success is going to be this Theodore Melby character and Allison Schroeder. It's just like Straight Outta Compton. If there are any awards,
Straight Outta Compton won awards. Yeah, the white writers from the movie Straight Outta Compton won the awards.
For what?
For Straight Outta Compton.
See, they're talking about the cinematography. There's a lot of those little, ads and banners that you see online for that for your consideration best cinematography in Vineyards. Screenplay, same thing. But you ain't seeing a whole lot when it comes to the actress. Gee, I wonder why. Speaking of not having seen them, I haven't seen the movie and I don't have to. I can smell it from here. I know exactly what it is.
Yeah, it was making white people feel comfortable.
White people are always pushing.
I like to make white people feel uncomfortable.
Reinforce the white lie that white people
I really
are
would.
racist to me, but underneath the meanness of the
John
racism
Brown.
and bigotry in the name
That's what I'm saying about.
churches and the shooting of black people in the streets.
Why they get all the books for him on him?
They got some inherent sense of fair play too, and you just
Because what they done?
their abuse, assuming they don't kill
Can't
you
get away
or
with that
survive,
Huh?
they'll be able to
I said
touch
they
their
can't get away with that
violence. Don't
Wrong color
throw white
for everything.
Don't challenge white supremacy. Hell, don't even question white supremacy. Instead, you try to find your place in it. Why? White supremacy has a place for you. If you just persevere long enough, why? You'll find your place under white supremacy. And it ain't so bad.
Sometimes I don't get
See,
that
that's
confused.
what Invictus
I can do that.
was produced to say. And that's why white
Find out more
people
information about the family.
kind of know.
Correct?
Yeah.
It says that the status quo is all right.
Status quo is not alright.
Meanwhile, the
Nope.
birth of a nation was attacked and assailed and
Because
slandered.
it wasn't done by a white person.
And it wasn't funded by white people. So
Thank
they
you.
couldn't critique.
Clearly recognized what the world they were seeing, a black man who mounted a major effort that told our story our way and
We're not
didn't
there,
put in
guys.
lies that would allow white people to feel comfortable about what they do. And the other contingent that attacked this film tragically came from black women. Not all before the usual people
But
were
they
trying to
done
figure
that.
out a way to
Because
say,
they would say, well, we don't want
We don't want
to look at Birth of a Nation. We'd rather look at Hidden Figures.
The problem is this
He telling the friggin' truth.
opposition that came out against it.
Well, black women and Nia Long's stupid ass.
Huh?
Nia Long,
Yeah, the actress.
yeah, her stupid ass was in the movie, but she decided to throw Nate Parker underneath the bus. I'm like,
That's what was name. That's what one of the male actors don't like her. But she's a banker.
huh?
She's in the banker.
Well, we gonna support the banking.
Majority of widespread opposition from within the black community itself. I fully agree that there was an enthusiasm gap of sorts among black men. But the thing is, black men, while they do go to the movies, they don't do it like black women. It was kind of like talking about, consumer culture as a whole. Women, by and large, are the ones who are running around being conspicuous consumers. Especially in the black community, thanks to 60 years of white supremacy undermining our community economically. What they do is they make sure that women are in black.
But if you white, you get all this shit.
So well, no, they won't ask you stupid fucking questions.
Yeah.
On the average, and movies are not a necessity. That being the case, it's going to be whoever has extra shekels to put together. That's going to be more likely to be particular, especially when it comes to paying higher price for a movie theater. Tyler Perry will
don't step on, don't
he did.
On my, don't, you gonna make me shoot you, dude?
He did.
Well, they kill it.
I'm taking the anyway.
The pheromone.
Yeah. Let it get up. There you go. Go away.
Oh, be glad. You're the kid.
Apparently, a lot of black women, that's a deal breaker. But apparently, Janelle Monáe.
Oh, God, I like that chick. I can't stand her. Janelle Monáe.
Which one is that one? She wears men's business suits, constant bow ties, and works.
She's a female? And she's a business suit?
Dresses like a girl, and you call that out, and you should, but this is okay.
What the fuck is that?
A black woman running around in business suits all the time, dressing like a man, got her hair up like a black boy, and blaming homo. It's bad enough that she's sitting here clearly trying to project to the world, look, I'm sexually ambiguous, which of course is just code for I'm lesbian. I just wanted to say
I'm everything but black.
Detrimental to my brand. Whenever Janelle Monáe is asked about her sexuality, she always dodges the question. Whenever she's asked if she's a lesbian or not, she just says, my sexuality is okay. And she keeps her personal life to herself. This strange creature is the very walking definition of intersectionality. She's the poster child for the kind of ethno-gender schizophrenia that is undermining the black community. But I don't see the black women who derided Nick Parker whining about her. So Hidden Figures has a woman who runs around in men's clothing, and I ain't talking about
nigga, back up.
This is Janelle Monáe's brand. Her brand is that she runs around in men's clothing. And that means something because in the United States and in Western European countries, the lesbians, the white lesbians, early 20th century,
in my damn leg, though.
they made it a point to identify themselves
here.
wearing men's clothing. I ain't talking about running around
Get the fuck out of here. Arrogant
That's not
little
necessarily
shit.
a radical thing. They run around in men's suits, so they could clearly make it obvious to everybody, hey, I'm one of the beards, I'm a bull dagger,
shooting the fish.
They wanted to make it clear, I'm
man.
men on teams, or at least I'm bang for the other. That's what white lesbians do. So when you see Janelle Monáe running around, tie on, she's got her hair up in a pompadour, she's sitting here trying to clearly signal to everybody, hey, flaming lesbian over here. Okay, she chooses to do it in the
I said it again.
I'm asking, why is it
fall
that
in
I'm
the
not seeing
trenches,
black women getting exercise on this? Where's Janelle Lemieux? Well, I'm only hoping for a date with Janelle. And that Moore's gallery of dysfunctional swirlers, lesbians, and undercover perpetrators, they've all been silent because they actually they support this. You black women out there, let your voices to the We Hate Parker campaign. Just keep in mind, this is what
I wasn't trying to kill it.
See,
I was trying to tranquilize it, dude.
it is never an end unto itself. It's always a means to an end.
Birds.
The goal is not
merely to birds.
It is to hold Nick Parker as being emblematic of black men in general. And that's always been the target. Unfortunately, I'm willing to bet more black women than are willing to admit to recognize this.
Why are you in the water?
Because you have black women across the board, straight, gay, in media, out of media, those in Hollywood and in other professions, all of them unite.
Why are you in the water?
In their open.
I'm trying to get the little bird.
The bird's on the side of the house. You're on the wrong side.
There we go. I got it.
One of these black women had anything bad to say about the movie itself.
Never mind, Michael. Never mind.
You see how I jumped and then I fall in there?
Well, just get on the thing and keep walking.
Well, because I was trying to get the bird and it wasn't officially on land. So that's why I had to, like, somebody stand in the water, somebody stand on the boat.
So, obviously, the opposition to the movie didn't have a damn thing to do with the movie itself. And no, it had nothing to do with the fake rape accusation against
that house or somewhere.
Black women are very confused on this issue. The ones who were sitting here making common cause with the dominant society.
He's not in the water, he's on the land, so.
Black men are frequently falsely accused of rape. But all of a sudden with Nate Parker, there's probably something there, probably something there. Obviously, you have some black women who looked at Nate Parker as being a proxy for black men in general, whatever delusions of, black men out here, take out the reason.
The devil exists. If your boyfriend in the house, you can't get no money. No husband is dead.
And they wanted to show
because they knew in your day and time when you were younger, Mom, that as long as they keep the black family ununited, y'all couldn't choke out white supremacy like y'all wanted to.
Yeah, they're not gonna have some free ladies.
Yeah, and all of them told you no, but they thank you. Listen, they didn't all just tell you no.
Oh, we don't.
Really?
Have that.
How do you know about that?
And my land and oh, okay, cool.
He didn't do anything. Well, what did he do?
What?
The only thing worse than victimhood is phony victimhood. And of course the white media was there.
Oh yeah.
Helping them out the same way that they help white supremacists who look for rhetorical defenses of police shootings of black people. The white media gives you a talking point that you can hide your prejudice behind, and then they disallow any commentary to the contrary.
But what are you asking? No, we're not talking about race.
That's at work when it comes to black women in America.
Like you don't have to. You act on it.
See in any other demo, not even black men.
And
The
the
dominant
white
society has
female
fostered
that
and
live
encouraged
around
the
here
pathological
try to do
hatred
that.
of black men by black women. Not all.
Not all. Some of them,
Yes, we are
some of
dealing
them.
with more than 50%. Deal with it. More than 50% of black women who are either openly hostile toward black men, or at the very least,
I have nothing against black
passively
men.
hostile, which is a distinction without a difference.
Just something stupid.
The problem a lot of these black women had with the birth of the
You
nation,
don't like coons. You don't like Sambo.
was that they dared to show a black man leading.
Don't like coons. You don't like Sambo.
And
It's
whether
not.
any black women
That literally.
or not,
It's not a blanket statement when it comes to you don't like stupid.
give the occasional
You always want to be
to
specific.
allegedly wanting black men to lead, but the second a black man does, they immediately start looking for reasons not to follow. They start looking for excuses to hang their hats on as to why they just can't obey what a black man says. I can't follow him. I just can't. Something's wrong here. The problem is he's a black man leading and they don't want to follow him. That's the problem. The last 3 generations, we have degenerated into a patriarchy. This is what a patriarchy is, man. Patriarchy doesn't work. Let's just say a period point blank. Patriarchy does not work because patriarchy is inherently regressive. Patriarchy works because patriarchy is inherently progressive. You can't be a patriarch unless you build something. With patriarchy, all you have to do is to produce a live birth. You know, presto chango, congratulations, you are now a matriarch. Because you got some mouths to feed that you can't feed. And a lot of black women love the fact that we are a matriarchy because they get to indulge some sort of ridiculous girl power fantasy when they're actually in control of something. When they're not.
Oh, that he's got that.
Children,
A little griller.
a community that is in tatters.
Because you can just put the meat right on there. And then you got that little hook right there. You can rise it up and put it closer to the fire.
Is far better terrain in hell than have to serve in heaven. And this rebellious spirit has been encouraged by traitors within our community.
Yeah, this is my Irish crazy fucker.
Who?
Sean McCreary.
Sisters, I've got news for you. You have allowed lesbians and sellouts to inform your decisions. People who want nothing to do with black people and who openly hate something on the order of 97 to 99% of black people. Those black people are not homosexuals, and they're at least 50% of the black
not
population
homosexual.
which means lesbian has no shot in them. And at least 95 to 97% of black women happen to be heterosexual. So again, if you're a black lesbian who's trying to look at the black community as a potential dating pool, you're SOL. Unless you can find a way to drive a schism between black men and black women. Run black men to the ground, tell black women you don't need a black man, certainly not with them.
Yes, I do.
And the idea is to isolate black women and get black women.
You don't want no coons, you damn sure don't want no sound though.
Coons and I don't want.
Now they will be more susceptible to some lesbians advances.
You gotta do that.
You got pork chops sideburns.
Back there, Jews.
No, them niggas be having them perm sideburns with the ringlets. Like that nigga really factor with one of your old fucking hair tie, not hair tie, but one of your hair rollers.
Remember when Cobra was struggling, Movie was struggling, and all them sideburn Jews was bearing somebody and didn't wear no gloves?
The majority of that population got fucking the woo-woo.
Yeah, got the woo-woo.
For being out there like that?
Yeah, no gloves, nothing. And no mask.
Fucking up
book of Samuel, chapter 15, verse 23. For rebellion is like the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is like the sin of idolatry.
Hey.
Now, when you act deliberately against the best interest of your people, when you make common cause with individuals who you know to be our enemies, that is rebellion. That's what rebellion is. And when you are given correction,
you still say you.
Admit to what you've done, and worse than that, you keep on doing it. That is stubbornness. You often hear me use the term recalcitrant. Recalcitrant means lawless. If you look at the Old Testament, you have the Hebrew saying that the Ten Commandments and such, these are the rules that we live by. They weren't merely saying, they say the rules that we live by. It doesn't just mean these are the rules that regiment our lives. That's not what they mean. We gotta live by this. They mean, the true meaning is, these are the rules that guarantee
our survival.
These are the rules that enable us to survive to see the next day. That's what it means when they say these are the rules we live by. These are the rules by which we are able to continue living. And I rather like verse Samuel 15:23 because of its way of putting it. It shows the underlying psychology of this notice that they tend to act with a kind of religious zeal about it. I mean, you just can't shake it. To them, they are on their own personal holy war to behave in a particular way, in the same way that Lot's wife simply would not let go of her adoration of Sodom and Gomorrah. Too many black women not let go of this girl power fantasy that they've been indulging. They never seem to feel that it's the wrong time to sit there and say, black girls rock. Even when you have a movie about a black man who's standing up to white supremacy, the first thing they say is, the black women should be leading the rebellion. What about them? Give me a break. They program themselves. And while the programming can be...
Because how you going to say protect black women, but you want to lead the rebellion?
Yeah.
Like, that's isn't that an oxymoron or some shit?
And he's going to say, get the fuck off your ass.
Bitch, you got a silver plate and a silver spoon.
Thank you. It's your daddy. Defend it, okay.
You got money from that.
Is this unspoken understanding that you won't have to take responsibility for what you've done, that will require them to accept the full scope of this betrayal act against black women, doing what they know to be right. And it's also what keeps us on this treadmill. Now, unless you admit that behavior or a particular belief is wrong, unless we make it official and put it on the table, then we can't make progress because we're holding on to this corruption. It's like a computer that's got like a malware virus. Until you first root it out and then merge it with the system, make sure that it's not part of your life.
They go to the river and bathe themselves, correct?
That you're not going to be free from. It's always going to be there.
And they,
it's going to screw things up.
Unless you pay for a bath.
Yeah.
Bath is 25 cents.
And
That's
in
not
order
bad.
to purge a corrupt
A hot
influence,
bath.
you can't do it until first you declare that it's there. You gotta say it.
Yeah.
Our community's hollowed out. And our enemies, they are freely killing us in the streets. And because 3 generations of black children to black boys have been raised by females, we are reacting to this genocide like women. Historically, women have been very easy to conquer and to integrate into the conqueror system because of 2 reasons. The first, ethnic loyalty simply doesn't mean the same thing to women as it does to men. It certainly doesn't have the same importance. Listen to me before you get ready to throw something at the monarchs. Men have to compete to pass on their genes. That's just a biological fact.
Women
on
don't.
the other hand, have exactly the opposite problem. A plethora of choices. Being if we're passing on their genes is a decision, not an obstacle. So, to women, the importance of ethnicity will never mean the same thing as it does to men.
Too high.
This is why the qualifications for what men and women consider desirable and made different. A woman wants a man with some resources because she's already got genetic security. And the main criterion that men seem to have for a desirable female mate is that she has to be simply pleasant to be around and in good health. And lack of ethnic loyalty matters because the second reason, which is closely related to the first, historically when a conquering army invades, they kill the men and the women take up a submissive posture.
That's why you hear him.
And
It's a jailbreak.
submissive posture.
It's a jailbreak. It's a jailbreak.
I know who.
This idiot. Hurry up, man.
Where's the chief?
I'm already unlocking the door.
Come on, asshole. Get out.
I mean, yeah, they do.
That's just a fact.
Where did he go?
Women find it very easy
Where are you
to
running?
submit to invaders. Men do not. That's the reason why.
Damn. Come on.
Men do not find it easy to submit to an invader.
And where's the jailbreaker?
Have got my damn horse.
This is the reason why we see so many
Get on the horse.
dancing
The fucking horse ran again.
out for the cameras that really police murder a black man. Instead, they're acting like a bunch
Get
of
on there.
weirdos. See,
Get on that thing.
Yeah, but I need somebody to drive.
Where you drive? Shit.
No, they want me to take him over here.
When you gonna get nobody there?
No, see this yellow mark? I gotta get him over here so he can go look for his money, I guess.
Find the money, asshole.
Hurry up, dude. We ain't got all damn day. Hurry up.
And to tell them that they're doing just fine when they're not. So whether they've got the moral courage and intellectual honesty to admit it, the truth is they do identify with white supremacy. And the foundation of white supremacy has always been to ensure that white remains dominant. Now, this absolutely requires that black remain not merely subservient, but
Hurry up,
at
dude.
the very bottom. After all, if white is supreme, then the further you get away from white, the worse things have to become of a necessity. Now, this is
Hurry
not
up,
a
you
natural
damn
state
horse.
of affairs at all. It's the
Where's the horse?
way that the European is twisted and
So why you running up the hill?
turned
Because they want to get outside of that red circle mark.
into our reality.
There's still be one. See how my one is going up? It's not red?
You
Okay.
can't have it both ways. Lip service isn't enough.
You got that many folks around there?
It's time to support what a black man does is not acceptable. Now,
Yeah.
you
Get on the horse,
on the
dude.
down low.
Where is
You
he?
gotta
Right there.
let you know
Hey, get on the horse. Hey.
No,
in the closet
Ah.
next door.
Ah.
Now get this.
Stop messing around.
Williams has got a couple of wiki interviews and apparently in the music for hidden figures.
Really?
That guy's damn
You just had to shoot the last cap.
himself. He dresses like a 5-year-old, but the only thing he's missing is a propeller cap. I'm pretty sure
Why you still
a
around
couple
me?
of Google images I'll probably
Just
find
one.
those pretty quick. I mean, it's
But you
obvious
still
that he is
see my
trying
face.
to reject everyone that he's in the closet, and he tries to surround himself with females as a means to throw the majority willing to
Still
believe
here.
otherwise off of his consent. I mean, that tactic, using females as camouflage for homosexuals, that's as old as a bathhouse.
Yeah.
But the thing that just disgusts me the most is black women know damn well that when they sit here attacking black men, trying to build something, trying to do something, you never see black men going on a jihad for black women in movies. I mean, Waiting to Exhale was just a
Then stop. The anti-man.
Just every frame, every bit of the movie was meant to scream loud and clear, black men ain't worth a damn, black men ain't nothing, and being with a black
I
man
was like, goddamn.
whatever happened to a black woman. Same thing with The Color Purple. Same thing with Set It Off. Recently had one of Tyler Perry's crappy produced movies. I know I gotta be a little bit more specific than that.
Yeah, you sure do.
Colored Girls.
The one.
4 colored girls.
Black women making a point to show black men being absolutely good
Where you at?
or nothing. And black women never express any dismay.
You got a long way down there.
You don't see black women sitting
You
there
follow
going,
me.
you know, why are the black men being uplifted in these movies? No objections at all. Black men are not featured in hidden figures, and yet there is a strident defense of that being given. It's not a movie about black men. The main characters are black women. Interesting, because apparently that's a sufficient enough explanation for any movie starring black women, but why is it that it's never acceptable for a movie starring black men? A movie that is about a black man killing white people precisely because of their countless outrages against black women. Apparently, the only thing that some black females could say was, there should have been more black women in it, more prominent roles. The movie's called The Birth of a Nation. It's the biography of Nat Turner. I'm sorry if Harriet Tubman
Didn't make a
guest
cameo.
appearance. Black men have never come out saying that, well, we refuse to see such and such a movie because of the past of so-and-so actress. Oh, she was sleeping with a white man. Oh, deal breaker can't be there. Now, we could. Maybe opportunities. Black men's loyalty to black women has been abiding and absolute. We don't make it a point to attack black women who are white. And we damn sure don't cheer for them to fail at something. Even if black men don't approve of the material or the creators of a particular film, you still never see us going on an all-out war to try to sink a movie starring black women. And not one of the damn movies ever uplifts black men. Not even one. You name it, if it's a movie with a black woman or women leading it, that the black men are either abusive or just otherwise worthless or just not seen altogether. And you black men don't try to destroy these movies. Yet black women make nothing of ruthlessly attacking any movie with a black man in it, and then they pick up some half-assed talking point to try to justify it. And it's always the same thing. They felt that it disrespected black women somehow. And apparently everything disrespects black women. What about The Birth of a Nation? How did that movie disrespect black women? Well, Nate Parker disrespected black women, that's what it is. But he wasn't a consultant black woman. Well, he should have married a black woman. There's always something.
You had freedom fight. You had
This is the type of partner.
fucking slave revolts to where it revolved over like, I'm not about to give you a black woman's body so you can do whatever you want to.
What happened?
Cooperation is not
You got sold out by a coon.
Double standard has been blatant and ridiculous. But this is where we are. And the selective outrage is sickening, especially when it's orchestrated by our enemies and serves to strengthen them. Affirming images of black men are important, and the lack of those images also matters. Our enemies certainly see none of this. But you know, October was when the war on Birth of a Nation reached its apogee. You had a literal army of black female online scribblers, and one or two male ones for that matter, all using the same talking points, which you could tell were clearly being spoon-fed to them by their white handlers. You had a bunch of black females who sat there willingly being meat puppets for white supremacy. And since they couldn't force Nate Parker to give a false confession, since they couldn't get him to denounce his own film, they instead decided to use their media monopoly to just outright defame the movie by false association. All of them saying almost word for word the same damnable lies, using this movie as a proxy for Parker. The white media had already said that Nate Parker mistreated women. Now they were going to place the same slanderous label on the movie. And these Sambos were out here writing pieces with titles like, "We need to talk about how badly this movie treats women." Now, The Birth of a Nation dishonors Rosa Parks and black female activists.
Then why you keep
Rosa
saying?
Parks wasn't even alive when Nate Parker
Dishonors Dr. King.
started that slave revolt.
No.
Why would some... Wow.
Because they don't know anything. They don't. No, okay, remember I'm looking at YouTube and this man was asking questions about history.
Yeah.
They didn't even know it.
Yeah.
They just took all their
Yeah.
lies about Nate Parker.
Somebody said, some white girl said, Martin Luther King ended slavery. I was like,
What?
yeah.
I told them no, they don't know now.
She said that in front of a group of people from at school. I'm like,
I'm not sure what to
Told
call
you.
this.
Like the lady said, what they doing?
These homo thugs who were
yeah, dumbing them down.
D-Watkins.
Computers.
I'm convinced that the
Oh,
D
that
was stand for
Or like
dumbass.
iPad.
Yeah.
Well, he wrote a hit piece.
But then like ask yourself the question like, who controls what's on that iPad?
Is not a victim.
And then these apps shit popping up.
Filmmaker needs to stop talking about his innocence.
Not just apps. It's free. You got, remember, those are school bought iPads.
that a black man stopped telling
So, like, what programs are on there
even though
before your child even gets it?
Yep. After assailing the movie 5 Ways from Sunday, dumbass Watkins, only giving the briefest of mentions of racism or slavery, by the way, decided to end his little hit piece with a 3-paragraph long rant about how, quote, Parker was charged in a country that denied rape, making him guilty even if he was proven innocent. Well, good thing that America doesn't deny racism, otherwise they Parker would have had a good defense there.
Yeah, in many ways. In many ways.
Dumbass Watkins wrote, Nate Parker was charged, went through the system and won. Congratulations on beating a system that has a history of mistreating women. Yeah, because America has no history of mistreating black men, right?
Bullshit.
That's why women are the majority of America's prison population and not, say, black males. Oh, wait. But the verbal vomit wasn't over yet. This moron then wrote, Parker needs to come to terms with how he continues to benefit from the very system he seeks to dismantle. Now, if this stream of mental sewage seems like it came from the mind of a certifiable lunatic, well, it probably did, but that's not to say that there wasn't some reasoning, perverted though it may be, behind it. You guys will probably remember that a few years back I did a video about the reality of black female privilege. You can still find it on YouTube. Now, in the video, I took down another black male who was panty begging. And a lot of black men realize that numerous black females have signed on to the feminism bandwagon. So these chumps try to use the terminology of white liberals who talk about rape as if it was far worse than racism. That's the scam that this Dean Watkins chump's trying to use. He's not the only one. White liberals are forwarding this agenda to try to help do their part to make it where racism is not a front burner issue. This is one of the tactics that they use. White liberals have appropriated the language black people use to describe white privilege. And these white people, principally white females, lesbians in the main, have launched an all-out jihad to try to appropriate those same talking points and substitute the word rape for racism. You can probably guess what happened next. A lot of black women, and I do mean a lot, found out that they could get an easy one-day writing gig for this or that white website if they were willing to repeat this garbage. That way the white publication would have black face time out. But you only get a one-day gig out of it. After they they immediately bring in females who they wanted to do this to sell the soap.
Like, damn, I know you're fucking broke with shit.
Huh?
But like, I know you're fucking broke with shit. That's the only way you can get some money?
They don't care.
If they also track it in these ridiculous talking points. Never mind the fact that a black woman's biggest problem is not sexism but racism. Go ahead to say the land that her gender
no, thank God. But I think you can put them in there if you like.
Institutional patriarchy was the biggest problem that she faced.
Where's your horse?
And some undercover homos and panty-begging black males, desperately hoping to get something.
You gonna all run down there to do what?
Look in their direction, decided to follow suit.
To do what?
You guys need to know this scam. You will see it. Whenever you see some male, particularly a black one, talking that
because it's an open world game, so it's more explored.
Understand that you are talking to a coon. Full stop. Black men build.
I already saved that dude that was in the that was running away from the police.
Guns in this country. Black men are the vast majority of people convicted of crimes in America, and also the majority of those later released because they've been wrongly convicted. We die sooner than any other demographic in the country, and we suffer the worst quality of life. Black men have zero benefits in this country. But when you're trying to get some butter society.
You got live, yeah, you just got live saves, yeah. They are good.
Dumbass Watkins is simply too dense to acknowledge is that the only reason Nate Parker was under the spotlight was because of the movie that he made.
See if that, it's either card or one metal thing.
Because the media didn't give a damn about rape culture. All they cared about was demonizing him and his film. See, if dumbass Watkins and the other feminists truly cared about what they claimed to see as a lack of concern about rape, then what they would have done is spend their time attacking white people. Don't. Why would they? They were for the white people. You had also another piece of human garbage, Imani Walker, who posted a hit piece saying that she adored Nat Turner. Yeah, sure you do. But that there was no way she was going to see Birth of a Nation because, well, the accusation against Nate Parker was simply too severe, you see. It was simply too much. And she didn't feel that he had been appropriately sorry for the fact that he was even accused of a crime.
So I'm supposed to be sorry that a motherfucker accused me of some shit, and I'm come out innocent for the accusation. But you say just the fact that I was accused.
I suppose that irony was lost on this empty-headed piece of dirt. By the way, you can just look at this one and tell she's clearly a lesbian, heterosexual, whatever.
Jesus.
And she's also a frequent contributor over at Root.
That's the one who had issue. The one that said, even if he would, since he was still accused, I can't watch the movie. Like, what? He wasn't even convicted. So you would say to Emmett Till, the fact that he was accused, that's proof enough that he deserved to have his face smashed the fuck in and be unrecognizable to his own goddamn mother.
Bullshit.
Clowns who were out there doing it were being paid by white people to do it.
See that dog all of a sudden.
It gets hella dark, hella quick.
In the aggregate, it just comes off like a cheap interrogation being performed by some incompetent amateurs. These clowns just kept demanding that he confess to something that he didn't do, and when their pressure failed to force him to a confession, they were just like, well, the very fact that he refuses to talk about nothing but rape, that's the crime. Oh, so we went from confess to the crime to, well, the fact that you won't confess, that's the crime. And of course, the white lie of it all is, well, if he would just acknowledge rape culture, the media would lose interest. The hell they would. The second that he sits there and says, well, you know what? About this rape thing, guilty conscience, guilty conscience, guilty conscience. Their job, these black mouthpieces, was to be the crash dummies for the right character assassination that was going to follow, and it did. After all, now the white powers that be had an open door given to them by these Sambos. And now the white media could come out and they could launch the kind of attacks they really
Sambos, pools, bed wenches,
and they could deny
bed bucks, and
racism. All they had
sellouts.
to do was point to the clowns who had written the articles right before them and say, we
Find
can't
out,
be racist
find
at all,
out,
look
find
like
out.
it for saying it. We know because we paid them to.
And that's like what the
And
equivalent of like
afterwards, the white
maybe
people like
$3.
let's
Let's say $3 at that time, the equivalent of $6 or $7.
is portrayed rape.
You got 1 minute and
As
4
two lives
seconds.
for the price of one. You can't sit there in one breath and say that a movie misportrays rape when in fact it doesn't show the rapes at all.
Nope.
It
Which is
merely
good.
alludes to them. And by the way, this is a classic white catch-22. If Parker had shown the rapes in graphic detail, then people like Lawler would have been baking outrage and saying, oh, Parker, he was unnecessarily exploiting the rape of black women. And clearly he was reveling in his own crime. He was getting his jollies. He was probably reliving the night that he raped that innocent white woman.
Wow.
But since he doesn't show the
Ooh.
You know, I've heard of torture porn, but this is an entirely new level of depravity, like you say to. You want rape porn now? People magazine posted a story about the fake rape allegations against Parker, except at the piece they came out and called the accuser the victim. They didn't just allude to it, they said she's the victim. Now that is libelous full stop. A white jury found Parker innocent. And since by law he was acquitted, that means there was no crime. Yet the white media persists in saying that there was a victim without a crime. And there was a crime with no evidence. The piece, however, did have one important bit in it. A statement from the family of the false accuser. It said in part, "We are dubious of the underlying motivations that bring this to present light after 17 years, and we will not take part in stoking its coals. While we cannot protect the victim from this media storm, we can do our best to protect her son. For that reason, we ask for privacy for our family and do not wish to comment further."
Really?
Now, you probably didn't hear much about that statement, now did you?
Nope.
Because it wasn't one that the white media could use. And when Nate Parker refused to let them browbeat him into giving a false confession 17 years after being found innocent of a crime he didn't commit, white media just decided to hell with it. We're going to put aside all pretense, we're just going to go after the real target. This movie. You had two open homosexuals, Robin Roberts and Anderson Cooper, both attacked Parker, making a film that they claimed glorified killing white people.
Yeah, there's a scene in that movie where one of the slaves chops that white man's head off. Yeah, right after that, the young nigga boy tells on everybody.
Tells on everybody?
Yeah. Straight Sambo.
That's what they wanted. Get him to say that term wrong. He shouldn't have done that. But fortunately, Nate Parker had more steel in his spine than they gave credit for. He didn't back down, he doubled down. He refused to let white people bully him or intimidate him. And he was not about to besmirch the sterling legacy of a true hero like Nat Turner. Nat Turner was a hero. What he did was virtuous. What he did was right. And if more black people had followed his example, slavery would have ended decades sooner.
Man.
The hate towards Nate Parker from the black women who engaged in it had to do with nothing more than them trying to validate their own inferiority complex.
Inferiority complex?
Inferiority complex.
White people approve of being figures. It has the pale skin seal of approval.
Mm-hmm.
And when that many white people claim to approve of something,
that should be right there. Something wrong with the movie.
Same with The Blind Side.
Yeah, I'm glad he sued them motherfuckers. The dude that was the actual person from the fucking Blind Side movie, he actually sued them motherfuckers for lying. Because he wasn't fucking retarded. And they didn't give him his first fucking bed.
Like you said, they embellished it to make themselves look good. But they fucked them stuff and got sued.
It's about what the images are
They fucking they ass got sued.
Yeah.
And people refuse to see the gay white supremacy play.
Cause think about the shit you found out now, man, compared to like knowing what you didn't know about. Like, I'm just like, if you had half the knowledge of the shit you know now to tell to your younger self,
Go ahead, man. She's like a crazy guy. I said, this is what's going on.
She's not going to be.
I'm not lying. I don't lie, honey.
When white people raise black
You want the
actors,
truth?
it's not because they
Growing
want
up,
to see
my parents
more of
always
them.
told the
It's
truth.
because they did a
No
specific
bullshit.
role that made
But
white
we asked mama, where do you come from? She said, you didn't come from no store, no
Let's
store,
be honest. White
no
society
rabbit,
knows how to push
no
black
tube,
people
no
the
nothing.
right way.
Your father and I had sex. His sperm hit my egg. 9 months later, he was born. And if you want a brother and sister, imagine a baby come out of your daddy's penis. You, oh, thank you.
Man.
So this is reality.
Everything y'all talking about, folks.
Reality.
You wanna know the baby trying to push a baby through your keyhole? Like, no, exactly.
You got right there. Where'd the hat go?
Took it off and I had my mask on.
You need practicing or something?
Trying to, it says I gotta shoot birds while I'm riding on top of the train. But the train has to be moving.
Driving the train.
NPC,
Huh?
non-playable character.
They never complained that Kevin Costner's always playing some near saintly individual. When a black man does that, all of a sudden they have a problem with it. It's too clean cut. In other words, he's not giving us the kind of want him to prove that he's the bad nigga nigga. Black men occupy a special place in the mind of white supremacists.
Bad nigga
Because
figure.
we are the ones who bring white supremacy down. Men don't submit. So when you add this refusal to submit to white male authority, to the fact that black men have dominant genes, you realize why white men hate and fear black men among all other things.
Dominant gene.
But they managed to isolate black men by getting black women to sign on to white supremacy. And when black women do the old, yeah, but black men, thus, so all you're doing is making them point. I suppose the problem is that I take the issue of media a hell of a lot more seriously than most. I understand that this is not about entertainment. It is about mind control.
Control.
Media is about planting ideas in minds. It is about showing them through imagery how they are to think. And Dr. Johnny Woodward said, media controls people's
Ready?
images.
Yeah.
If they can control what you see,
Just
then
burn
you
them
can
more.
control what you see
Burn, I
yourself.
know.
And if they can control how you see yourself,
They control how you do yourself.
And Fessy's on the bed.
dominant society
That's
so
not fair, man.
Yeah.
these images shows what ideas they believe in and to what extent. Remember when I told you about wheresoever a man's power is, that's where his treasure needs to be too? This is why putting a dollar figure on media is white supremacy derives two crucial benefits from the white media. They indoctrinate you with their ideology, and they get paid. If you want to add a third, you could say that they impoverish you in the process. They get you to disadvantage yourself. And you come to work to justify since decades ago, it doesn't cause any significant problem in our community to call out black men cool, because you never see anyone defending them. But when you point your finger at black women for any reason at all of a sudden, black is terrible. Too many black women, not all, but damn sure more than 50%, have this instinctive reaction to hearing any kind of criticism. And it wouldn't bother me except for the fact that black women signed on to white supremacy 6 decades ago and have been acting out its agenda ever since. When will black women call this out? That's what I'm asking. All of this undercover black feminizing is not fooling anyone, and giving silent opposition is no opposition at all. White supremacy uses its media to psychologically masturbate black women, and that matters because black women are the ones being given material support by the white power structure. So it is not harmless when black women consistently attack and undermine media that black men are trying to create. That actually moves the needle and takes a step toward expressing an authentic black voice. And then these same people put money into the pockets of Tyler Perry or some other white director making a do-nothing flick whose only purpose is to make black people, women in particular, think being the helpmates to the white government is somehow something to be proud of. Because it's no accident that Tyler Perry's Madea Halloween movie came out right after the theatrical release of The Birth of a Nation. And it's also no accident that Hidden Figures came out just before the home video release. And now we have the white media attempting to manufacture Oscar buzz. Well, they're only doing half Oscar buzz for the white people involved with Hidden Figures. Or does anyone truly believe that Taraji P. Henderson is going to walk away with an Oscar? This is the media equivalent of a rope-a-dope. They sucker you in with what you think is going to be some sort of advantage or reward, then they knock you out. This is not just about one particular movie or one particular filmmaker. This is about a sustained and deliberate pattern of behavior that's been going on for decades. Black women think the reason you go to the movies is for psychological masturbation, which ironically is the same reason white people go. But I'm telling you that movies are not supposed to be about that. Media is not supposed to be about that. I've told you for years now that to white men who own the media, they don't see themselves as being in the business of entertainment. They see themselves as being in the business of mind control. We don't need to see black people trying to find our comfortable place under white supremacy. We need to see black people challenging it and for the sake of tearing it down. We do not need to see black women trying to sit here and find excuses for why it's okay to take cheap shots at black men. We need to see black women looking and saying, you know what, we understand that there is a scam going on and we are going to destroy it. Now, before I end this video, I'm going to close out saying Birth of a Nation is now out on DVD. Just in case you're not that kind of person, in case you're trying to go green or whatever, you can get it online. Get it at Best Buy, Walmart, iTunes, Amazon Video, the whole 9 yards. There's no excuse for not getting it. And as for Hidden Figures, well, there's really no need for me to support it. After all, white people already do. And please don't go fooling yourself thinking that this movie making $3 million means anything. It's more, first of all, it was the timing of the movie's release that helped. Timing is everything. I remember when Creed came out, I was like, that was a movie that needed to be observed either until January or February of the following year. It didn't need to release it next year. I mean, you put it right between the final chapter of Hunger Games and Star Wars The Force Awakens. You can't get any oxygen when you position yourself like that. But you know, I
Okay.
We want to be successful so we can get our money back. But we ain't trying to make no superstars here in this movie. We could probably do that. So we want to go ahead and limit it. So they sat there and chopped the knees out. Gave it a release date that they knew was not most advantageous. See, I keep telling you, in Hollywood, it ain't about green at all. It's about black and white. So, if anything, Hidden Figures is just more of the same old pseudo-white savior flood that won't make white people feel uptight. It's like the Help, only with rockets. And the only ones who will get anything from this movie success is going to be this Theodore Melby character and Allison Schroeder. It's just like straight out of comic. If there are any awards to be given, they're going to go to the white people. Black folks in the film, they're going to be overlooked, just like they've been for this whole for your consideration Oscars award thing. See, they're talking about the cinematography. There's a lot of those little, ads and banners that you see online for that for your consideration best cinematography, Hidden Figures. Screenplay, same thing. But you ain't seeing a whole lot when it comes to the actress. Gee, I wonder why. Speaking of not having seen them, I haven't seen the movie, and I don't have to. I can smell it from here. I know exactly what it is. The same cut-and-paste nonsense white people are always pushing us. A movie that will reinforce the white lie that white people are racist to me, but underneath the meanness and the racism and the bigotry and the name-calling and the burning of black churches and the shooting of black streets, you can get past all of that. They've got some inherent sense of fair play too, and if you just put up with enough of their abuse, assuming they don't kill you first, why, you'll be able to touch their pure white hearts. Don't overthrow white supremacy. Don't challenge white supremacy. Hell, don't even question white supremacy. Instead, you try to find your place in it. Why? White supremacy has a place for you if you just persevere long enough. Why? You'll find your place under white supremacy, and it ain't so bad. See, that's what Hidden Figures was produced to say. And that's why white people love it so much. The kind of film that says that the status quo is all right. Meanwhile, the birth of a nation was attacked and assailed and slandered from all sides, but the main onslaught came from white people who were clearly threatened, who clearly recognized what the role they were seeing. A black man mounted a major effort that told our story our way and didn't put in the lies that would allow white people to feel comfortable about what they do. And the other contingent that attacked this film tragically came from black women. Not all before the usual people who are trying to figure out a way to say, oh, I kind of feel like he's talking about me. I may well be. But not all black women were on the bull crap. The problem is this movie, the opposition that came out against it, the people who spoke against it, and the ones who remained silent. It showed that not all black women were on the bull crap. The problem was enough of them. And while I'm not going to sit here and say that Birth of the Nation's, less than stellar box office, somehow all black women felt the problem happened to me. You do not crash this kind of film without getting at least a majority widespread opposition from within the black community itself. I fully agree that there was an enthusiasm gap of sorts among black men, but the thing is, black men, while they do go to the movies, they don't do it like black women. Time I talked about, consumer culture and as a whole. Women, by and large, are the ones who are running around being conspicuous consumers. Especially in the black community, thanks to 60 years of white supremacy undermining our community economically. They've done it, they made it for women, they make sure women are black women able to get a job more readily than a black man or this government assistance. So what happens is they're going to have more disposable dollars than a black man on the average. And movies it's going to be more than likely going to be able to partake in it, especially when it comes to paying a higher price for a movie ticket. Tyler Perry, Will Packer, look him up, and even Steve Sambo Harvey have made their careers in Hollywood releasing movies that were meant to appeal primarily to a black female demo, or at least a movie that, from a marketing standpoint, could be geared toward a black female consumer more easily. Now, Nate Parker, having a white wife, apparently that's a deal breaker. But apparently Janelle Monáe, who's in Hidden Figures, wrote that. Now, this woman dresses like a man. She wears men's business suits constant, bow ties, and works. Okay, so Jaden Smith dresses like a girl, and you call that out, and you should, but this is okay. A black woman running around in business suits all the time, dressing like a man, got her hair up like a black boy and complaining. It's bad enough that she's sitting here clearly trying to project to the world, look, I'm sexually ambiguous, which of course is just code for I'm a lesbian. I just wanted to say it because that might be detrimental to my brand. Whenever Janelle Monáe is asked about her sexuality or whatever, she always dodges the question. Whenever she's asked if she's a lesbian or not, she just says, my sexuality is okay, and she keeps her personal life to herself. This strange creature is the very walking definition of intersectionality. She's the poster child for the kind of ethno-gender schizophrenia that is undermining the black community. But I don't see the black women complaining about her. So Hidden Figures has a woman who runs around in men's clothing, and I ain't talking about one or two photo shoots. This is Janelle Monáe's brand. Her brand is that she runs around in men's clothing. And that means something, because in the United States, and a lot of these Western European countries, the lesbians, the white lesbians, early in the 20th century and late 19th century, they didn't want to identify themselves as lesbians by wearing men's clothing. I ain't talking about running around in just pants. That's not necessarily a bad thing. They could run around in men's suits, so they could clearly make it obvious to everybody, hey, I'm one of the beards, I'm a bull dagger, whatever the hell you want to call it. They wanted to make it clear, I'm bad for both teams, or at least I'm bad for the other. That's what white lesbians do. So when you see Janelle Monáe running around with a tie on, she's got her hair up in a pompadour, she's sitting here trying to clearly signal to everybody, hey, no flaming lesbian over here. Okay, she chooses to do it, it's her choice, but I'm asking, why is it that I'm not seeing black women getting exercise with this? I mean, where's Jamila Lemieux? Well, probably hoping for a date with Janelle. And that poor's gallery of dysfunctional swirlers, lesbians, and undercover carpet munchers, they've all been silent because they actually approve, because they support this. And all you black women out there who lend your voices to the Nate Parker campaign, just keep in mind, this is what you've been helping to promote. See, under white supremacy, when it comes to attacking black men, it is never an end unto itself. It's always a means to an end. The goal is not merely to denounce Nate Parker. It is to hold Nate Parker as being emblematic of black men in general. And that's always been the target. Unfortunately, I'm willing to bet more black women than are willing to admit to recognize this. Because you have black women across the board, straight, gay, in media or out of media, those in Hollywood and in other professions, all of them united in their open, just bitter opposition or covert opposition to this movie, and not even one of these black women had anything bad to say about the movie itself. Isn't that amazing? In the case of Amber Phillips and Jamila Lemieux, they never actually saw The Birth of a Nation. They admitted themselves. They didn't actually see it, but they didn't have to. They just didn't like it. team black men in particular. The results were certainly eye-opening, to say the least. A lot of people walked away from that experience angry. Some of us walked away annoyed but not surprised. This video is going to address the gender divide in support for black-led movies this past year. Not merely that, but the bulk of the video will of course go to that subject. And let's get this out in the open from the outset. Not all black women are
Yeah,
nonsense, and you happen to be part of the contention. You got your head on straight. But there's a reality as to why so many black women supported, say, Hidden Figures, and had nothing whatsoever to do with the birth of the nation, and that has to be addressed as well. All of this, by the way, has been sparked by the recent DVD release of the nation. That's what inspired me to video, and the fact that I don't feel that there's been any attention given to it, and this is wrong. By the way, for those of you who trashed Birth of a Nation, I've got some choice words for you too. Human garbage like Amber Phillips, Jamila Lemieux, and the rest of the Midwich Buck Dance Brigade were out in force spewing their lies, and now it's time for the good guys to have their say. You know, there are movies that the dominant society doesn't like and bend. There are the movies that the dominant society knows that they have to kill. The Birth of a Nation was one of them. Hidden Figures, on the other hand, was not. In fact, white people seem to love that movie, and it's not just because they're trying to, after the fact, manufacture a smokescreen for themselves to hide behind in order to cover up their blatantly racist takedown of the Birth of the Nation. White people actually like Hidden Figures in of itself decent already. Now, looking at the recent box office data, Hidden Figures to date has made $40 million, $24 million of it its first weekend in release. And this is the second weekend in a row that Hidden Figures sits at the number despite the multi-release. That's 2 years in a row. But then again, let's be honest. January is a month when movie studios don't know that they don't really care about. And that's not to say that Hidden Figures isn't bad. I mean, I haven't even seen it, I'm not going to. But I'm just stating the reality of the marketplace and the way that the industry works. Now, since January is a dumping ground for clicks, it also means that it's a month-long opportunity for a strategically released film to find its audience and become a sleeper hit. This has happened several times in the past. Like The Birth of the Nation, Hidden Figures was also brought to theaters by 20th Century Fox, though
catch up.
The Birth of a Nation, Hidden Figures was actually made by 20th Century Fox. And that matters. Nate Parker actually had to roll up his sleeves and to call in a lot of favors and to pass the hat around numerous times until he had enough money to make the movie. Since he was the one who scraped together the financing himself, that meant that he could make the movie his way. This is the reason why, unlike, say, 12 Years a Slave, you had Birth of a Nation that didn't portray any white saviors. There's like one white boy who shone somewhat sympathetically. This ain't a movie about making white people good. It's a movie about telling it the way that it actually is. And I use present tense deliberately. Slavery isn't over. It never ended. So, Hidden Figures came out of the gate being a product that was crafted by the very same racist forces that did everything they could to kill the Birth of the Nation. And they've given it a big push. Hidden Figures already has an Oscar campaign for itself going. See, that's what they do with movies that they want to succeed. They got their temper. They got their game plan together. And the movies that white people look at and say, yeah, this movie definitely makes sure that white people feel good about it. What do they sit there and support? Everything else, they run into the ground. I mean, all of these blatantly insincere, for your consideration ads DVD and Blu-ray. Got a lot more attention than Hidden Figures, but of course it got the wrong kind of attention. The kind of attention that says the signals, hey, this is not a movie that's approved of. What are you idiots doing? Having congratulated Dave Parker in the past, we shouldn't have done it. We need to bury it. And just so you know, I was so eager to once again give my support to this movie that even though I saw it, even though I don't really care to build a home video library, I went ahead and got my copy of The Birth of a Nation. Got it on DVD. I considered going ahead and, ripping some scenes from it to go ahead and post this video, and then I thought last thing I need is to trigger copyright strikes. That one got it. But for those of you who have not gotten your copy, get it. And not just because of the fact it's not some nonsense, we need to go ahead and support it because Dave Parker was standing on white supremacy. Get the doggone movie because it's a good movie to watch. Get the movie because this is one that is bare knuckles in the face to white supremacy. I saw all sorts of things in that movie that I looked at and said white people are not going to like. No wonder white people are so incensed against it. There's one scene in particular after Nat Turner has led the rebellion at the Turner plantation, and he's gotten the rest of his freedom fighters together at another staging ground, and he asks one of his brothers, what time do you think it is? He's looking at the sun. Going, what time do you think it is? The guy goes, 5, maybe 5:30. Nat Turner pauses for a moment and says, no, about this time, I'd be finishing 2 rows of picking cotton. Another one of the brothers is talking about, I'd be finished up trying to clean out the barn or the stables or what have you. Another brother says, I'd be having some hot water prepared in the massa, dreaming about dumping it on his head. And that got it. And because of the fact that it was not a huge moment, what it showed was these guys had their lives regimented to white supremacy. Every breath that they took of every day was accounted for on a clock that was set up by white supremacy so that you knew from sun up to sundown, what your day was going to be. They had the oppression down to a science. Now, anyone, black, white, or otherwise, who's ever worked a 9 to 5, that ought to be able to resonate with you right then and there. In fact, that's one of the things that they used to call wages. When the concept was first created, we called it wage slavery. Mainly because you're sitting here working for somebody, but you don't own any of the company. You only get what they choose to give you. So, that scene in particular stuck with me. A lot of the scenes, most of the movie is evidently notable and quotable. It has just basically a litany of hard-hitting scenes, stuff that you're going to be able to see, but it's not based on being gruesome. Though the big scene that a lot of people are going to remember the most is when Nat Turner was taken to a plantation. In fact, when the slave owners had him basically working a circuit, if you will, where he would go from one plantation to the next, using the Bible to tell the slaves, all need to listen to Mass and now slaves obey your master. You know what that book says. God likes us. God likes to have his slave. And there was one scene where you had this overseer who was saying, I got all these slaves here. He refuses to eat. Going on a couple of days now. You just don't want to eat. And finally what they do is they pry the guy's mouth open. And the overseer takes a hammer and a chisel and he knocks out the guy's teeth. Just starts knocking them out. And then when the guy's sitting here with a mouth full of blood and broken teeth, they put a funnel in his mouth and shovel food into it. That moment of service still. And while Gabrielle Union made a perfect ass of herself, talking of basically trying to figure out why the movie couldn't be all about her, maybe the fact that you're asking Gabrielle is the reason why it's not should be. The way that there are 2 rapes that are depicted in the movie, but they take place off screen as they should. This is not a movie that basically is course, taken with this young woman's remarkable beauty, and he's not the only one who noticed. So good old boys decide that they're going to have their sick fun with her. They ambush her one night, gang rape her, and she's severely beat to the point she's unrecognizable. And Turner has to beg plantation owner to if he can go see this woman to see if she's all right. When he goes to see her, the scene is just disturbing. She's shown a swollen face, just to the point where you don't even know that it's her. And Nat Turner's like, tell me who did this. I'm going to find out who it is. After you tell me, I'm going to go find it. I'm going to go deal with it. And the woman, she can barely speak, but she makes out the words. He who lives by the sword shall die by the sword. You taught me that. And here, they give a fantastic performance. Nat Turner is just cracking up at this moment, not laughing, but breaking down like, oh my God, because he realized now what he had done. He sat here and programmed all of these black people with the idea that they were supposed to submit to whatever level of abuse white people decided to be out. And slaves were supposed to happily bear their burdens. Ain't that what he taught him? And here he was with a woman that he cared about. And she has been outraged by some white thugs. And here he is just wanting her to simply give the name, tell me who they are. And she's not doing it not because she doesn't want to, but because of the fact that
you want mushroom?
I
didn't catch it.
He indoctrinated her not to. He brainwashed her not to.
Okay.
And it was this moment that struck me more than any other film, because it showed the fundamental immorality that Nat Turner had been inadvertently hoping to promote. Now, I'm not going to talk more about the film because I want you to see it. Those two scenes
that's the acting criteria,
that I took away from it. And I'll tell you right now,
Nate Parker.
all of scenes. I mean, there's no way in the world you can watch this movie and then just, go back to whatever the world you may have been doing online. This movie's going to stick with you, and it should. The movie is just that profound. It receives my highest possible recommendation. I'm not even a film critic.
You don't do that very often.
But as terrible as the depictions of slavery are, it is the film's depiction of the white characters where it really reaches its highest potential and where the movie shows its real strength. Once again, this movie made white people not merely uncomfortable, but it made them furious. No white heroes. Worse than that, this movie doesn't portray the white racists as mouth-breathing bigots. Caricatures like The Blind Side. Hollywood created basically this straw man cutout of a cardboard racist. Basically, he's shown as being a demented bigot, constantly spewing racial slurs. We all know that this character, this caricature, doesn't really exist in society. He's just a ridiculous cardboard cutout that Hollywood gets to put on screen because white people look and say, well, that's a racist, certainly not me. They can go back out for white supremacy and practice racism without a pang of remorse, because after all, Hollywood showed them a ridiculous caricature that doesn't really exist in white world to feel that's not me. Not this movie. Hell no. This movie portrays the white people as pretty much uniformly racist. That all white people in the movie are in fact bigots and racist. That's progression. That's a change. It's about damn time. But more importantly than that, it doesn't portray them as being a caricature of bigots. It shows them as just being average white people. Gang raped the woman who Nat Turner was fond of. They're just average white guys. They're not these refugees from deliverance or something. They're not sitting here going, come here, nigger girl. They're like a white guy you would imagine. And the guy who uses a hammer and chisel to knock out the slave's teeth, the guy is actually one of the more affable figures in the movie. He's not pretty. I hate niggers with a passion. Instead, he's just a white guy who, as far as he's concerned, is another day at the office.
a black woman
to be raped by a fellow plantation owner at a party. When these black men were like, you know, we're not handing her over, Armie Hammer was like, I'm trying to make a business deal with these men, and in
Business deal?
I'll see all of you lynched by morning. Except he's not portrayed as being out to profit animal. He's portrayed as the exact same kind of entitled white people who meet and talk to every single day. Oh, it's not hard at all to see the problem that the white people have with this. It is that portrayal of white people as just actually racist, the banality of white supremacy that angered them more than anything else. Nate Parker, bless his heart, he made it a point that when white people watch this movie, they're going to see themselves up there on that screen. This is not going to be a comforting caricature.
No, looking down,
Squirming they see.
Yeah.
And that's why they had to kill this movie. They didn't have a choice. The fact that white people hated this movie as much as they did, that ought to have been proof enough for black people that there was everything right with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's when white people approve of something,
Mm-hmm.
that's what you need to be suspicious of. That's the stuff you need to stay away from. But of course, black people are always taking their cues from white people. White people didn't approve of Vernon Johns. He was one of the forerunners to Martin Luther King. White people didn't approve of Malcolm X, and as a result, black people didn't either. It was only decades later when all of a sudden we got all of these Malcolm X supporters in the baby boomer community.
That was Malcolm X.
All of a sudden remember, oh, I love Malcolm X back in the day. No, you didn't. And we see it today, even now. You got black people who are like, well, if white people are sitting here saying we're the nation ain't no good, I'm going to say it too. Well, you know, I understand why white people are against this movie. I understand fully. I understand why they're telling black people that the movie was sold out when it wasn't doing all these little tricks to undermine the film. White people have always feared black people, particularly black men, finally coming for some payback because they know that it would be an ass-whipping fully 500 years in the making.
Mm-hmm.
And after Ferguson and Baltimore, white people are on edge to the reality of black discontent with how we have been treated by them, and that some of us are looking and going, God dang it, enough's enough. They've always controlled the images, and that's part of how they controlled us, a big part of how they didn't. But here was an image that they couldn't control because they didn't create it. So white opposition to this movie was totally understandable and predictable. But my question is,
Where was black
why
people
were
acting
there
like
black
that?
people who decided to join in on this as well? Instead of a movie that moved the needle like The Birth of a Nation, instead what we see black people putting their dollars behind is Hidden Figures, which is just another movie that comforts white people. Look, some niggers learn how to do that. Or us.
Not told the truth.
That's what you see with these movies where white people are trying to pretend as if they're congratulating this or that person. It's always if you're used to white people. If you stand on your own 2 feet and say we're going to build something aside with white people, we're going to stand up to white people, we're going to take power from white people, they ain't trying to promote that. But if you sit there and, you know, you go in and find your comfortable place under white supremacy.
Nope.
Oh, I'm willing to go along with you. He has some problems at first, but you know what? These white folks, it's all right. They'll go ahead and promote that. Hidden Figures doesn't empower because they never challenge white people.
Now, if they would have took over the space station and said, unless y'all fully employ niggas,
they're knuckling up on white supremacy. The production stills for Hidden Figures shows the black group dancing. No wonder white people were so comfortable. See, they couldn't do that with The Birth of a Nation. And the director of Hidden Figures is some guy I'd never heard of, Theodore Melvin. He's white naturally.
yeah, that's what I
And he
said.
wrote the screenplay along with another white person, Allison Schroeder. About the only other film credit that she's got is Mean Girls 2. So we go from a crappy comedy about
Mean Girl Sue.
Mean.
M-E-A-N.
Serious drama about black women. See, that's just how things go in Tinseltown. In us the streets, and because 3 generations of black children, particularly black boys, have been raised by females, we are reacting to this genocide like women. Historically, women have been very easy to conquer and to integrate into the conqueror system because of 2 reasons. The first, ethnic loyalty simply doesn't mean the same thing to women as it does to men. It certainly doesn't have the same importance. Listen to me before you get ready to throw something at the monitor.
Okay.
Men have to be
Straighten up.
to pass on
Sit up. No, sit up.
biological reality. Women, on the other hand, have exactly the opposite problem. Choices. They are passing on their genes as a decision, not an obstacle. So, to women, the importance of ethnicity never mean the same thing as it does to men. This is why the qualifications for what men and women consider desirable make different.
You gonna skin him?
Woman wants man's resources because she's already got genetic security. And the main criterion that men seem to have for a desirable female mate is that she has to be simply pleasant to be around and in good health.
I'm trophy
And
one.
lack of ethnic
No,
loyalty
not trophy
matters.
rock.
Second,
It's more like,
which is closely related to the first.
can I have a family with this woman? Can she give me offspring to where our success can be continued by our children?
Always takes the form of them on their backs, legs wide open. I'm not trying to be vulgar. I'm trying to be just blunt about it. Because that is the historical reality. Women offer the invaders their wombs because they feel that this always has some sort of value. And even if the woman's womb is no longer on the table, well, at the very least, she's offering herself as recreation. That's just.
Because I wasn't even thinking about that. I
Women
just
find it
kept
very easy
eating
to
nuggets.
submit to invaders. Men do not. That's the reason why, ladies. Men do not find it easy to submit to an invader unless they are taught to. And this is the reason why we see so many black men dancing in the streets and showing out for the cameras after the police murder a black
I'll
man.
come back and get that in a minute.
They're not acting as men who have been taught that when an invader kills one of yours, you are at war. Instead, they're acting like a bunch of females. See if you can placate the invader, show them that you mean no threat. Too many black women have now come to identify with white supremacy, and we see this most clearly when we look at the way that they rear their broken families, particularly their sons. They depend on the white power structure for their job, or for the few that they can get in, their education, or whatever government assistance they're on. They look to the white media to stroke their egos for a sense of self-esteem, and to tell them that they're doing just fine when they're not. So whether they've got the moral courage and intellectual honesty to admit it, the truth is they do identify with white supremacy. And the foundation of white supremacy has always been to ensure that white remains dominant. Now, this absolutely requires that black remain not merely subservient, but at the very bottom. After all, if white is supreme, then the further you get away from white, the worse things have to become of a necessity. Now, this is not a natural state of affairs at all. It's the world the way that the European has twisted and distorted it to be. They turn their perverted racial delusion into our reality, largely with a lot of black people's help. You can't have it both ways. Lip service isn't enough. Always looking for an out when it comes time to support what a black man does is not acceptable. Now, you hate brothers being on the down low, but when you got a woman like Janelle Monáe who is all but out of the closet, that's cool. And Pharrell Williams has gotten a couple of wiki interviews because apparently he did the music for Hidden Figures. And that guy's damn near a flaming homo himself. He dresses like a 5-year-old, but the only thing he's missing is a propeller cap. I'm pretty sure, though, if I go up tries to surround himself with females as a means to throw a majority willing to believe otherwise off of his set. I mean, that tactic, using females as camouflage for homosexuals, that's as old as a bad house. But the thing that just disgusts me the most is black women know damn well that they sit here attacking black men, trying to build something, trying to do something. You never see black men going on a jihad over black women in movies. I mean, Waiting to Exhale is just a non-stop black man ain't spit fest. Just every frame, every minute of the movie was meant to scream loud and clear, black men ain't worth a damn, black men ain't nothing, and being with a black man is the worst thing that will ever happen to a black woman. Same thing with The Color Purple. Same thing with recently had one of Tyler Perry's crappy produced movies. I know I gotta be a little bit more specific than that. For Color Girls. The hell? Movies that star black women make it a point to show black men as being absolutely good for black women. And black women never express any dismay at this. They don't see black women sitting there going, gee, you know, why are the black men being uplifted in these movies? No objections at all. Black men are not featured in hidden figures, and yet there is a straight defense of that being given. It's not a movie about black men. The main characters are black women. Interesting, because apparently that's a sufficient enough explanation for any movie starring black women, but why is it that it's never acceptable for a movie starring black men? A movie that is about a black man killing white people precisely because of their countless outrages against black women. Apparently, the only thing that some black females could say was, there should have been more black women in more prominent roles. The movie's called The Birth of a Nation. It's the biography of Nat Turner. I'm sorry if Harriet Tubman didn't make a guest appearance. Black men have never come out saying that, well, we refuse to see such and such a movie because of the past of so-and-so actress. Oh, she was sleeping with a white man. Deal breaker, can't be there. Now we could. Maybe we should start. But to date, we've never done it. Not even once. And we've had plenty of opportunities. You know, black men's loyalty to black women has been abiding and absolute. We don't make it a point to attack black women for white people. And we damn sure don't cheer for them to fail at something. Even if black men don't approve of the material or the creators of a particular film, you still never see us going on an all-out war to try to sink a movie starring black women. And not one of these damn movies ever uplifts black men. Not even one. You name it, if it's a movie with a black woman or women leading it, and the black men are either abusive or just otherwise worthless or just not seen altogether. And yet black men don't try to destroy these movies. Yet black women think nothing of ruthlessly attacking any movie with a black man in it, and then they pick up some half-assed talking point to try to justify it. And it's always the same thing. They felt that it disrespected black women somehow. And apparently everything disrespects black women. What about The Birth of a Nation? How did that movie disrespect black women? Well, Nate Parker disrespected black women, that's what it is. But he wasn't accused of assaulting a black woman. Well, he should have married a black woman. There's always something. Now, how the hell do you build when this is the type of partner that you're supposed to be with? Black women want support to only go one way, and that doesn't work. Cooperation is not a one-way street. The double standard has been blatant and ridiculous. But this is where we are. And the selective outrage is sick, especially when it's orchestrated by our enemies and serves to strengthen them. Affirming images of black men are important, and the lack of those those images also matters. Our enemies certainly seem to know this. But you know, October was when the war on Birth of a Nation reached its epicenter. You had a literal army of black female online scribblers, and one or two male ones for that matter, all using the same talking points, which you could tell were clearly spoon-fed to them by their white handlers. You had a bunch of black females who sat there willingly being meat puppets for white supremacy. And since they couldn't force Nate Parker to give a false confession, since they couldn't get him to denounce his own film, they instead decided to use their media monopoly to just outright defame the movie by false association. All of them saying almost word for word the same damnable lies, using this movie as a proxy for Parker. The white media had already said that Nate Parker mistreated women. Now they were going to place the same slanderous label on the movie. And these Sambos were out here writing pieces with titles like, "We need to talk about how badly this movie treats women." Now when Birth of a Nationists were sitting here making common cause with the dominant society, proclaiming in one breath that black men are frequently falsely accused of rape. But all of a sudden with Nate Parker, there's probably something there, Obviously, you had some black women who looked at Nate Parker as being a proxy for black men in general, whatever delusions of, black men out here, taking out the race. Obviously, they looked at Nate Parker as being a proxy for their misplaced rage. And they wanted to show black men, we're going to show you, boss. Because when this black man was proven innocent of raping a white woman, that didn't mean anything. The dominant society needed black women to spew these lies because they were a ready audience for it. And it is not harmless, by the way, when you allow yourself to willingly be used as a prop to give cover to the people who oppress us. That is not a victimless crime. While you try to convince yourself that Nate Parker did something, I'm only opposed to what Nate Parker did. He didn't do anything. Yes, he did. He must have. Well, what did he do? He makes black women feel undesirable. The only thing worse than victimhood is phony victimhood. And of course, the white media was there, helping them out the same way that they help white supremacists who look for rhetorical defenses of police shootings of black people. The white media gives you a talking point that you can hide your prejudice behind, and then they disallow any commentary to the contrary. There is clearly a type of collective groupthink that's at work when it comes to black women in America, a think that we don't see in any other demo, not even black men. The dominant society has fostered and encouraged a pathological hatred of black men by black women. Not all, but at this point, yes, we are dealing with more than 50%. Deal with it. More than 50% of black women who are either openly hostile toward black men or at the very least passively hostile, which is a distinction without a difference. The problem a lot of these black women had with The Birth of a Nation, the movie itself, was that it dared to show a black man bleeding. And whether many black women want to admit it or not, they hate that. A lot of black women give the occasional lip service to allegedly wanting black men to leave, but the second a black man does, they immediately start looking for reasons not to follow. They start looking for excuses to hang their hats on, as to why they just can't obey what a black man says. I can't follow him, I just can't. Something's wrong here. The problem is a black man leading and they don't want to follow him. That's the problem. The last 3 generations, we have degenerated into a matriarchy. This is what a matriarchy is. Matriarchy doesn't work. Let's just say a period point blank. Matriarchy does not work because matriarchy is inherently regressive. patriarch unless you build something. With patriarchy, all you have to do is to produce a live birth. You know, presto chango, congratulations, you are now a matriarch. Because you got some mouths to feed that you can't feed. And a lot of black women love the fact that we are a matriarchy. We can make it dull some sort of ridiculous verbal power fantasy that they're actually in control of something when they're not. What are you in control of? Children that you don't have the means to support? Or a community that is in tatters because you are not the economic engine working? And a culture that is schizophrenic and decaying. To a lot of black women, though, it is far better to reign in hell than to serve in heaven. And this rebellious spirit has been encouraged by traitors within our community, principally suffocating opportunists, and that ridiculous caricature of a human being, a black feminist. Sisters, I've got news for you. You have allowed lesbians and sellouts to inform your decisions. People who want nothing to do with black people and who openly hate. Something on the order of 97 to 99% of black people. Most black people are not homosexuals, and then at least 50% of the black population are male, which means a lesbian has no shot at them. And at least 95 to 97% of black women happen to be heterosexual. So again, if you're a black lesbian who's trying to look at the black community as a potential dating pool, you're SOL. Unless you can find a way to drive a schism between black men and black women. Run black men to the ground. Tell black women you don't need a black man. Certainly not the men. Don't. And the idea is to isolate black women, or better yet, get black women to isolate themselves. And hopefully at that point, now they will be more susceptible to some lesbians' advances. That's the scam that's going on here. And if you went along with attacking Nick Parker, then you played your part in promoting that scam. And don't tell me that you haven't, because I don't see any black women calling them out. All I see are just varying degrees of agreement. I know what the leverage is that these feminists and sellouts have over the majority of black women. It's largely emotional. I mean, there's been 60 years of ego stroking, and it has made it now where a lot of black women's pride is now about a foot thick. Now, I'm no Bible thumper, though I do believe that, religion in general holds some wisdom. And when I think on the fact that black women can't even admit to what they are doing and refuse to even speak against these whores who are deranging our community, I can't help but think of the book of Samuel. 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 23. For rebellion is like the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is like the sin of idolatry. Now, when you act deliberately against the best interests of your people, when you make common cause with individuals who you know to be our enemies, that is rebellion. That's what rebellion is. And when you are given correction, yet you refuse to admit to what you've done, and worse than that, you keep on doing it, that is stubbornness. You often hear me use the term recalcitrant. Recalcitrant means lawless. You look at the Old Testament, you have the Hebrews saying that the Ten Commandments, these are the rules that we live by. They weren't merely saying, they say the rules that we live by, it doesn't just mean these are the rules that regiment our lives. That's not what they mean. We're going to live by this. They mean, the true meaning is, these are the rules that guarantee that we will live.
That guarantee we will survive past the next generation.
That's what it means when they say people.
Every time they think they're doing something, fuck up. Correct?
And I rather like 1 Samuel 15:23 because it's
Well, it's more the fact that they're still trying to do tactics from when you were young. In my old age. And it's like,
you ain't got no fucking commission.
I mean, you just can't shake it. To them, they are on their own personal holy war to behave in a particular way, in the same way that Lot's wife simply would not let go of her adoration.
Air fried chicken, they don't need no oil and grease.
Too many black women will not let go of this girl power fantasy that they've been indulging. They never seem to feel that it's the wrong time to sit there and say, black girls rock. Even when you have a movie about a black man who's standing up to white supremacy, the first thing they say is, the black women should lead the rebellion. What about them? Rick, they program themselves. And while the programming can't be broken, first you have to let it go. The problem is black women realize they would have to live with the embarrassment that as late as the 21st century, they were letting white people goad them into attacking their own men in front of our enemies and actively undermining what black men were trying to do. And then all it took was just flimsiest of rationales given by the white dominant society in order to get black women to go along with it. It is this unspoken understanding that you won't have to take responsibility for what you've done, that the truth would require them to accept the horrifying scope of this betrayal. That's what keeps black women from doing what they know to be right. And it's also what keeps us on this treadmill.
I wonder if they have a...
Now, unless you admit that a behavior or a particular belief is wrong, unless we make it official and put it on the table, then we can't make progress because we're holding on to this corruption. It's like a computer that's got like a malware virus. Until you first root it out and then purge
you always got to clean your gun.
It's not part of your life, that it's not part of your operating system, then you're not going to be free from it. It's always going to be there, and it's going to be screwing things up consistently. And in order to purge a corrupt influence, you can't do it until first you declare that it's there. You gotta say it. Our communities
don't talk.
And our enemies, they are freely killed.
You just mimic whatever you say on your mic.
Because if they did, they have to get a whole lot more people or behind the scenes voices. Correct? Mm-hmm.
First of all, it would be nearly impossible for me to adequately express to you how much I don't give a two-bit damn about Europe's royalty.
Who?
I cannot stand the mention of royalty. I feel the same way that my Europeans feel about royalty, that they are an artifact of a bygone era and are best consigned to the ash heap of history if only all of them had gone out of business with the First World War. And that's how a lot of white folks in Europe and America feel about royal families, at least the men do. But the truth of the matter is, this is in the news. It's in the news for a variety of reasons. Royal nuptials just being part of it. But of course, you have a non-white woman who's apparently going to marry her way into the heart of one of the could-be heir apparents.
They call this baby a monkey.
And by the way, before anyone gets carried away here, this
and took down his pictures.
I don't even know what the world of
took down his pictures.
I don't care.
Yeah,
She's not be a princess. The white media made much hay about that. In fact, they spent all day.
Everybody was saying when Diane was still, the queen had something to do with it.
There was a video I found of when Princess Diana's casket came out. It passed by the royal house, right?
Yeah.
The queen was outside. And this is beyond protocol. When Diana's casket passed by her face, the queen bowed to Diana's body.
Excuse me?
Yeah. When Princess Diana's body finally passed by, the fucking Queen of England fucking bowed to her. It was like,
the usual swooning that white women
Harry.
This is the same prince here.
He's saying what to do. Like, okay, what, do you see any power getting exchanged hands?
It's like before she became Queen Margaret, there were more ruled England. Black people ruled England.
The Moors, they're the ones that showed England how to wash their ass.
Mm-hmm.
And now he calls himself very Irish for the United States.
One in 4 states.
By the way, Irish will be black.
You know Irish will be someone else.
Harry the Nazi.
Huh?
Hispanic and part white or part Arab and part white. They only break that out and talk about black folks. So biracial is just code for
I know that shit. Yeah.
This is the woman who Prince Harry chose to marry. And she chose to marry him. Ain't that something? No accounting for taste on her part. I can only wonder how long it's going to be before she comes to the surface with some stories about him calling her a nigger at a family get-together. We all know
Did you hear the tree?
it hasn't happened already.
Did you have to ride a horse?
When it comes to the media's fascination with the happenings, especially the dating, the marrying, and nuptials of the Winter family, those stories are meant for women.
Did Miss Oprah go to the wedding?
And we need to take a moment to
I think she actually did.
because ladies, you need to understand that the media's got your number, and this is not a good thing. And before the ladies try to get ready
You supposed to be dancing or something?
That's how you can interact with other players if you don't have a microphone.
I hate to have to call you a liar to your face, but if any of you in the comments section, ladies, decide to lie about this one, then I will call you a liar to your faces. You want to know why weddings are so expensive? You want to know why weddings are something that women make such a big freaking deal about? And it's women who make a big deal about it. It's because you have a working class couple in most cases, many of them can barely afford to even call themselves getting married, much less having some big ceremony. But you have these couples who try to imitate as much of a European royal gala nuptial as possible. That's what happens with weddings. You're trying to imitate a royal palace and a royal couple getting married. Well, these royal families, they got a lot of money that's been taken from the citizens of their own countries, so they got a lot to play with. You don't. They got a royal treasury that they pay for their weddings from, and they own the freaking castle, and they own the guards. It's actually not as expensive for them in comparative terms as it is for you trying to pull it off, to pretend to be a royal couple. Everything from the expensive RSVP cards, to the wedding gown, to the ceremony, but we all know, let's just come straight up the middle, wedding ceremony ain't got a damn thing to do with men. Weddings are not something that you do for men, not something that is put on for proof. Men are not the reason that weddings are so obscenely expensive. Men don't care if they get married by a justice of the peace in a gas station bathroom. Men don't give a damn about having some wedding. That's the reason why the tux only costs about $100. That freaking wedding gown's gonna cost thousands and thousands of dollars. Used. Weddings are there for the women. Women want the ceremony. That's what women do. They fantasize.
Ceremony, my foot.
They love the idea of here comes the bride and a whole lot of people
They
in the room.
got married at the courthouse.
Women are
I
addicted
don't
to
know.
attention.
You never did when Jeremiah's grandpa get married.
They don't
I
care
don't know,
about
find
the
out.
responsibility of being married in most cases, but they are absolutely obsessed and fixated on the ceremony. In fact, for a lot of them, if they could find a way to
You just rely on everybody on the ceremony.
I think just to rub it in the other girls' faces.
As soon as they say I do, they would love that. So you go ahead and go through the ceremony all over again. For a lot of women, they don't want to be married. They just love the idea of the wedding ceremony. That's what they're in love. They're in love with the idea of, oh, how much attention.
What about an African wedding?
They want the gown.
Yeah, that's some shit.
Photos and video that they'll never watch but once. They want to go through all the pomp and circumstance. They love all of that.
Yeah, the RSVP, the president,
The
is
entire media empire, all women's self-aggrandized obsession with being a princess. Most women are never going to be princesses except on their wedding day. That's the reason why they always are turning into little monsters, pride-zillas about it. I want to be perfect, I want to be perfect. Well, damn,
No,
all you
not
gotta do
perfect.
is say I do. It's more than that, it's more than that, this is my day, this is my day! And that's where it comes from. Princess for an hour. And they get to live out their heartfelt, attention-whoring fantasy. Let's be honest about why the media covers who the royals date and marry with such hyper-obsessive fervor. Because that's what the women who slavishly follow these kind of things, these royal family datings and matings going on, such, that's what the women are interested in. Women drool this stuff. It's been rating big sales for newsstand articles, and it drives websites. In fact, part of the reason why I chose to talk about this in part is because I know that it's going to be irresistible to a lot of women, even though this evening address isn't about Harry and what's her name.
8 cents.
Going to watch and listen to this because it touches on the subject, and it's a guilty, empty pleasure for them that they just cannot get enough. But there's a serious subject here. Now that I've gotten past how worthless and meaningless this little would-be marriage is, how it doesn't mean anything, and how the people who obsess over it ain't that much to begin with, let's talk about something that truly matters. Non-white woman married to the brother of the crown prince. The white media was not able to ignore this story. They can't really ignore something like this because this is something that has not happened in the modern age. Windsor family had no black folks anywhere near the crown. Hell, they don't have any black folks near Buckingham Palace.
And that's on purpose.
And since the white media is unable to ignore this story, instead they've resorted to pathetic feel-good measure. They're trying to figure out how they can load and throw shade in the story. And they're attacking black people by proxy. That's the reason why they want to make sure they point out how this woman really isn't anything special, and how, well, you know, you really shouldn't be sitting here saying that she's a princess. She's not going to be. And, well, you know, this isn't the first time something like this. They're trying to find every way they can to discount down this. And, you know, I agree with this. It ain't going to change my plot one bit, and it ain't going to change yours. But for the sake of actually making the historical record, the actual history is told, I think that this event can be used. White media spent years miseducating
crack is not swelling.
that they are racially pure. One drop of black blood means you're black. The white media has preached that idea. They justified that idea, lionized that idea. So no wonder they had to wholesale ignore the black presence in European royalty. This was the same thing that the Nazis did, by the way. All of that pure white blood stuff, same standards in the United States.
Yeah, but they ran the damn third cousin.
With still a sense of racial pride and white.
That's why their teeth looks like that.
White exceptionalism. Then what you have to do is you have to point at black people. It's not a matter of one drop of Asian blood being not white. One drop of Arab blood being not white. It's one drop of black blood.
One drop of nigga blood.
Video that not nearly enough of you watched. Black oppression is the unifying principle of white supremacy. You have to teach white people that white is pure. If we were white, that means some sort of purity.
You got so much shit in that ain't funny.
Now the same white media has to let the white masses down slow and easy. Gotta be careful about this one. We don't want mass suicides in the street. They're trying to ease up to the truth.
And that is?
You can't just tell the truth. You gotta tiptoe around it, you gotta beat around the bush, you gotta sneak up on the truth.
How much you got from him? 10 cents?
And their phobias and various dysfunctions and hang-ups. And insecurities, God knows they got insecurities.
You got a lot of insecurities.
7
You always
cents.
gotta take
7
a
cents.
long way around. You gotta come 10 miles out of your way.
9
White
cents.
folks can't handle the truth. 110. The white media certainly did it that way. For example, the Charlotte Observer had the nerve to write that the New Yorker magazine reported that it was, quote, absurd to suggest the royal family is one of pure genetics.
You got pure genetics.
Have you ever heard of any white media outlet royal family and your genetics. Oh, the wizard family is a pure genes.
No,
That's
no.
absurd. It was white people, white clergy, white politicians, white historians, the white media, and most of all, it was the white royal families themselves who non-stop bragged about their genetic purity.
It's not true.
And the wholesale totality of their white privilege. Now it
Just
was
stop on
all
his
just
head or
be
something.
pure
Blue as hell.
Pure is the way
5
it is,
cents,
so white pure.
10 cents.
We know everyone in our family tree. We know every
61
leaf of the
cents.
family tree. It was white folks who did that. So it's absurd for the white media to try to come along after
Wait,
this.
yes,
And
huh?
say,
Yes,
"Why,
yes.
it's just ridiculous to claim that these guys are pure genetics." Yeah, that's what
So
they're
what's
saying.
this? I don't know who's coming along to be rap for this, okay? Yeah, I don't even
At
know.
some point, you're gonna have to trick. So when the truth eventually does come to the surface every so often, the white media find themselves in the position where they have to do one of these cover their butt stories. One of these blink and you'll miss it throwaway pieces like this. They'll admit the truth in a single sentence in passing, and then immediately hurry on to something else that they prefer to talk about. But the truth of the matter is, this is how the white media operates. That way, nobody will be able to say later on, "You guys never even did the truth." Well, we did. We did it once.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just the white media covering themselves. They don't have the ability to stop this. Ain't no scandal gonna conveniently come along and derail production. Not to be
Because they can't.
media to say like they were seeing, they were powerless to stop.
I don't
So that being the case, let's at least go ahead and bring this. Let's get in early to describe this as being of lesser value because there's a non-white fault. A person
That makes
who
sense.
has some black genes, even if she is not really to herself. That's part of the reason why you don't see me out here caping for this Markle phone. But the white media knows exactly what's going on. The visuals alone, optics, are
Yeah,
enormous
both sides.
problem. Prince Harry's this redhead guy running around, losing what few hair he had. He's supposed to marry someone who looks like a
36 cents.
blonde haired, blue eyed, pale skinned, clearly a woman who don't get outside much.
Damn.
Hey, he married a woman with some color to her skin.
He just hacked out that nigga head like it
I
was
guess he
nothing.
decided, hey man, be
Damn.
ready to look us out.
Oh, okay. He's like, we don't need the, he's like, we don't need the body, we can just take the head. That's okay.
So like,
It's so
as far as
gross.
they're concerned, the unspoken message is he's getting a genetic upgrade.
So you're taking the hand back to the papa?
Played out, kind of passe.
They're gonna figure out into that one.
I ain't be like,
What the hell's this? That's the head
so
you
that's the
want.
head you want.
Are
You sure it's the right head?
There has been a bunch of black men online using the internet to tell the real history, particularly the history of black people, and touching on the history of black people as it relates to Europe. And a bunch of black people telling this true story. What the white media has either concealed or in many cases destroyed altogether, and yet you have black historians like Dr. Clyde Winters, who have been on a jihad, by the way. That guy in particular, he's gone on a one-man crusade to tell the story of the black presence in Europe, from the man on the streets, royal families, all the way to the paints. And he's not alone. You've had others like Dr. Renogo Rashidi and others. I'll be here till 3 in the morning, name them all. But you had a lot of black men who have been out there fighting the good fight, pointing out that, hey, if you white folks are trying to say that black folks have had no history,
Bullshit.
well, you had to cover up most of European history, and you had to censor it, and you had to hide it, and lie and say that it was something that it was not in order to cover up the fact that there were black folks running in and out of those royal castles.
Thank you.
Not merely as magi, not merely as court secretaries, but in many cases you had black folks as members of the royal family themselves. This is the history
Literally
of
calling the
Europe,
shots,
just not
making the
so
laws.
55 cents.
Or rather, it doesn't support the lie of black oppression and black inferiority. Now, now that these things come to light, white folks are going to pretend like this is a tree that fell in the forest, or rather an entire forest that fell, and they just didn't hear it, just didn't see it. Hell, the tree fell on them, and they're gonna, after they get through mending some of their broken bones, they're gonna get a wheelchair, wheel themselves away, and pretend like nothing had happened.
Like, I don't know what happened.
And this,
like, then why are you bleeding? I don't know, I just woke up that way.
He's lying sack of shit.
Very effective, so effective, in fact, that the white media felt the need to attack and assail this effort to attack the men who were perpetrators. White media always does that right before they have to give up the ghost and think the truth, and then refuse to discuss the issue anymore. I was personally part of the effort to help make sure that Egypt as a black civilization is on the map. I am proud of the work that I did, proud of the effort that I put forward, proud of the white liars who I shut up. My work is among the most viewed on any sort of social media platform, let alone YouTube, talking about the reality of Egypt as a black civilization, and I laid out for you the case step by step, stone by stone, of white racists who went about covering up that truth and how it was that they did it.
Damn.
And we know that our efforts were really hurting white people's egos, because we had the white trash themselves who acknowledged it begrudgingly, and they try to cover up their butthurt with such racist beings as we was Canadians. Well, don't look now, pale males.
We was
Kang. Is in Buckingham Palace now. We're a hell of a lot closer to the throne than the white trash in the United States are. And by the way, I consider it delicious irony that the New York Slime was forced to report on this story too, because they were the ones who told the most outrageous lies against Dr. Leonard Jeffries and against Dr. Anthony Browder back in the 1990s. These men were bringing back the reality of Egypt and black civilization.
Why did they always say Egypt is not in Africa?
Yeah, that's because when somebody, have you not looked at
Egypt
it?
is in Africa.
You don't leave Africa without going through Egypt.
They would point to this broken sculpture where only like the neck and the bottom part of the mouth of the mane barely could be identified as human, as a human sculpture. And then they would put a caption on it saying that Anthony Browder and Leonard Jeffries were trying to claim that sculpture that we are proof that she was a black woman. Wait a minute, ain't you show the classic shows with the big fat afro look like freaking Angela Bassett? Ain't you gonna show that? The New York Slime was doing their yellow journalism, white supremacist propaganda. They could not refute the evidence, so they didn't even try. Instead, they just told outright lies.
I don't know what you're talking about.
This is the New York Slime, though, so even when they tell the truth in passing, they still have to do their best to downplay it and try to pass it over. They reported that Charlotte Sophia von Mecklenburg's black heritage is a, quote, theory. By only, quote, one story. Now, of course, this is not true at all, but this is blatant white media bias, so this is par for the course for them. They have to do this. They're not about to say, folks, we've been lying to you for hundreds of years now. We've been covering up the reality. Now, what they'll do is, they'll say, for future reference, well, it's not like we did, not like we said it wasn't true. Yeah, you just did everything short of saying it wasn't true. There are scores of historians who have proclaimed that Queen Charlotte was at least part black. Even PBS reported on this and talked about it. But the way that the New York Times tries to word it is deliberately deceptive. They want to spread disinformation.
Give me the money,
That
ain't my Kenny. That's his brother.
Well, pay it anyway.
Yes, you got payments for going out there doing this shit. Bullets cost money. And he just throws the head like whatever.
It is just one guy, some Afrocentric, you know, I guess he wants black people to feel good about themselves. That's what the New York Times is. They give honor for white denial. Now, for decades, you've had black people online like myself telling the truth about Africa and the truth about Europe. That's why I did the series Adam, Africa, and the Real Greeks. telling the history that white people don't know.
So he just tossed it.
No, it's nasty. Mr. Butterbean, yeah, we know. And the magazine flies and
Yeah, like you ain't just a servant head just sitting around your hat.
I can see it.
Afraid, so petrified.
Marcletus, what's that smell? That's probably that damn head I forgot to throw away. You did what?
About history and about the world and about
That
themselves.
word's the wrong guy anyway.
White pseudo-scholars, so-called.
What you mean it's the wrong guy? I killed the wrong damn dude. Why'd you kill the wrong dude? The fellow was the right dude.
True. It's not my fault that history doesn't have a
Please, you're done. I wouldn't. Can't argue that.
Lies that they've been telling and retelling themselves for hundreds of years. They had a choice. The choice was that they could either understand, consume, and internalize the history and accept it, or they could ignore the history, try to cover up the history, and ultimately try to destroy the history. They chose the latter. And now that history is reasserting itself, because the truth never stays buried forever, at some point it does come back to the surface, because the truth is real. Lies always go away at some point because they're not
Lies?
Lies.
And instead of them looking and going, maybe these black folks who have been telling us these unpleasant realities, it doesn't soothe our egos, it doesn't diddle our egos and psychologically masturbate us, but this is the truth. Obviously, the black folks seem to be right a hell of a lot more often than we are. Maybe they're onto something. Instead, it's, maybe they were right on this one, but they really weren't that right. They start trying to convince themselves it's still fact. So I understand full well that whenever I tell this truth, whenever I spit this black truth, they're not going to look and say, you're onto something a lot more than our own white historians would-be talking heads are, so maybe we should listen. Instead, it's going to be, you're not validating black inferiority. You are flying in the face of black inferiority, and we need this so that we can feel good about ourselves. So since you refuse to prop up the lie of black inferiority, we're going to go find some white folks over here who will. Back to La La Land.
Back to La La Land.
White culture, or as I like to call it, the land of make-believe. So yeah, it's coming back to the fore. Reality is reasserting itself. At least this opportunity is one that we should take to make sure that we put this on the record, throw this in their faces, because the thing that they can't deny it, that's how it's become. We've gone from just last week, we would have the white media going, saying that Queen Charlotte of England was some sort of, saying that she was some sort of mulatto, that she had any black blood. This is just black people trying to find a way to clog on to European history. That's what happens when you don't have history of your own. Now they're looking and going, well, maybe she was black.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Person, you can't prove that all who were black. No, it's all black. So what they'll do is they'll try to create some sort of straw man.
I'm trying to run down.
Ridiculous exaggeration that black people would say. That's what's coming next time. Now that the thin end of the wedge has begun, they've had to admit, one of the former queens of England happened to have black ancestry.
Mom, your
Now
phone's
they're going to
asleep.
be doing it, they're going to try to find straw man arguments. Can't deny the reality, so they got to find some other ways to make one feel better about themselves. And they're going to try to say, well, okay, the right we had to eat crow on this one, but you're wrong if you say that they were all black. You said that they were all black. Nobody said they were all black. Yeah,
You
we're
know,
going
you
to
said
see.
he was playing the game, huh?
Huh?
After you still be playing this, huh?
They're going to try that.
No, I'm probably watching the movie.
Gets bruised. At some point,
And
they
then, just kill the bear.
turn that L into a W.
That's a big ass bear.
Just fine. Which is par for the
Where's
course.
your horse? Oh, there it goes.
Now, the white media attacked excoriated men like Dr. Nogo Rashidi, called them Afrocentric theorists, and tried to claim that these men were reverse racists, pseudo-scholars, and everything else, and all they were doing was just trying to peddle feel-good fantasies to black people. Well, the results are in white media. The results are in white America. The results are in white world. And for about the umpteenth time, yet again, predictably, the black scholars and the black historians are right, and the white theorists and the white media and the white
this isn't like
have been exposed
Metal Gear.
as the pseudo-scholars who peddle feel-good lies meant to bolster fragile white egos. The black scholars are right yet again, and the white ones are wrong as usual.
You
But
want
then
to
again,
do
that
skin?
doesn't surprise me.
You scared shit.
Not only that, like you leave a bunch of shit just.
What do you mean?
Well, I certainly agree. We are talking about European history as
That's M-E-A-T-B.
just a pack of lies.
A lot of it.
Straight up and down.
Like you're taking it, like you're literally skinning the meat too, but it's like the animation just shows you skinning it. I'm like,
They were right about that.
okay, but y'all like wasting all that food though.
That's what I'm saying. That makes no damn sense.
Okay, when a European
Okay,
historian
you see that gold right there?
Yeah.
That's either eggs, one of those family heirlooms.
Something in the box.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take the word for it. We lie, and that's the truth. Okay, that's fine.
Make it up now, oh,
It's
Bob.
the black scholars whose accounts and works have not had to be
Family
changed all
heirloom?
the time.
Huh?
Arrowhead.
It is no small thing. It is not a victimless crime. It is not harmless when you allow history to become a lie. It is supremely dangerous because, as another old adage goes, those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat. But how can you learn history lessons and avoid repeating history's mistakes if everything you were taught was a bunch of lies? This is why it's deadly for you to allow your enemy to teach you history.
Never mind.
He's teaching history, he's teaching you propaganda.
Never
He's teaching
mind.
you lies meant to undergird and bolster his power.
I know. Plus, it's a wet one. You're wasting a lot of the animal.
The black community by proxy this week.
But don't you ever try everything more fucking?
In fact, you had at least 4 different so-called news
At least they eating
on 2 different
somewhat.
continents, but all of them with the exact same title for their stories, saying that Meghan Markle isn't going to be a princess. She'll never be a princess. And all of this in the same 24-hour period. Just this flood of stories, all of them with the exact same title. From different white media outlets on 2 different continents. These guys are furious that a woman who is unquestionably not white is going to be marrying into the upper echelon of the most prominent royal families still extant. White media's furious, cross-eyed with rage, but they can't do anything about it. So this is their consolation prize. Well, if we can't stop her from marrying her way into the Winter family, at least we're going to point out she ain't royalty. She ain't royalty. She ain't never going to be royalty. It's rubbish.
You know that.
By default.
Thank you.
Because of the fact she married a prince.
Yeah, but that's what also possibility she could.
She's not descended from a royal bloodline, Bill.
Yeah, but y'all fucking your cousins.
Third cousins.
4th cousin, 5th cousin.
Yeah.
6th cousin. Oh, nobody knows about that?
If motherfuckers know about that, because them damn people's got like fucked up teeth. You start asking questions like, why your teeth look like that?
A lot of brains to get your brains free out. Black athletes best them on the gridiron. Well, they're trying to make it seem like, well, the black guy got natural skills. Yeah, you've been training for football since the time that you were at Pampers, but apparently it's just natural skill. It's not the result of intellect. It's not the result of hard work. It's not the result of practice.
Five of them.
White counterparts. It's the result of natural skills. Yeah, because it can't be any developed skill you had on your own. It came by hard work.
Mom, I want your phone to see.
I gotta take the clip for a little bit. Why don't you cut the damn thing?
That's how you get your meat and stuff.
How many you gotta cut?
This is all that they can do.
I think one more.
Let's not get happy here.
You sure?
I
think it said 5 of them.
That's the way you better look at it. Yeah, it's great to see the pale males finding their team. You got the white women who, as far as they're concerned, they're shaking their fists, their bony little wrists at the freaking computer screen, TV screen, and going, God, nigger, that's not on a TV. It's great to see them doing it. Folks, this ain't no comedy. We don't get anything out of this. And that Meghan Markle woman, she's done everything she can to make it clear, I'm not black, mind you, I'm biracial. Right? That's fine. Because what that means is, when the royal family decides to treat you like any other black person, you know, you ain't gonna have anybody to go to. Go to your biracial, see how far that gets you. For some of y'all out there, folks, who've been getting a little carried away, acting as if this is some sort of accomplishment for us when it ain't got a damn thing to do with us. Okay, this has got some blackout of the royal family in England. Hell, in historical terms, as I pointed out, we were through with the English crown before the Windsor family even knew what to do with it. The only possible value in this pointless exercise in appealing to females' fantasy vibes possibly serve is to teach history that white supremacy is covered up. First Egypt, now England. The lie pulled over the world's eyes by the white media is being exposed, massive holes poked in their lives, and the light is finally showing through. However modest it is, and even they are forced to have to say it, only in passing so they can cover their butts. The point is, the very thing that they were denying viciously, now they are sheepishly admitting to. That's the reason why as black folks, we gotta take a hard line. Okay? This ain't gonna be some one and done fight. It took decades to get to the point where these bastards were forced to have to come up with a confession on this one. They were forced to have to come up with a confession. And of course they're gonna sit there and snipe and say we was Canes, and they reason why is they're looking at going, yeah, black folks was Canes. Meanwhile, the white folks were merely poor white trash by the moonshine too. So history has repeated itself again. And the same white folks in America who clearly did not learn from history because they were busy telling themselves a fictional history exists, a fraudulent pack of lies that they claimed history but really wasn't. Since they didn't learn from history, they're being forced to refuse. And as for the black historians, sure, some of them may make some minor errors with their work, not like the kind that their white counterparts do. See, the black historians, they write a book, they make some small revisions necessary later on, but the white historians, they constantly have to revise their history books every freaking year because so many of their claims that their writing were dead wrong in the first place. Black historians' work is far more subtle. Let's go ahead and just come on. The black historians' work is subtle. The white counterparts' work, not so much. So I want you to take that with you as you look at this. Don't worry about this Meghan Markle woman. She's going to get her wake-up call. At the end of the day, times may change. These good, pure Europeans, they don't. And no matter what she may think to herself, no matter what some of her supporters may think, whether it be they bed wenches or black people who unfortunately have some sort of sentimental or psychological attachment to European royalty, who apparently are thinking they're part of something not. Sooner or later, these folks are going to show their true colors. I can tell you right now, whether how ugly the splitting of Harry and Meghan Markle will be when it eventually happens, if it eventually happens at all, that ain't got nothing to do with us either. It's their little deal, be it ever so trite, and they're welcome to. But as black folks, the lesson for us to learn here is, under white supremacy, they lie all the time about every freaking thing. And whether or not we are going to win this argument, not going to come down to whether or not we can win the argument in a single 5-minute segment. White supremacy did not come on the world scene in 5 minutes. We are not going to put it back into the hell where it belonged in 5 minutes. This is going to be a multi-generational effort. We have to stick to our guns, tell the truth, and stand by it. Okay?
You say it's too early, but like, what's your body telling you? You gotta fall asleep.
Yes, yeah, I'm talking about.
White racists calling themselves Egyptologists,
Don't look at the toilet and hug around
social order and global
and
white
sit there.
supremacy. I stand on it. Been standing on it for over a decade since you've heard of me. Longer, in fact, since before I decided to make a foray onto the internet. And as I said on my Twitter page, I ain't changing the message. I'm not changing one syllable of what I've said. Everything that I've told you, I'm standing on it, and I know that it's right.
Catch him.
I've proven that it's right. It's based on fact. That's the reason why you're going to see me doing like the New York Times and all these white media outlets and having been some sheepish admission of, well, nobody ever said that Egypt was black. Or, well, nobody ever said that most of Egypt's rulers were black. Nobody ever said that most of Egypt's kings were black. Well, I stand on what I say. And that's the reason why you can have confidence standing. These guys are liars, but because of the fact that white supremacy and massive amounts of resources, they have a preponderance of violent military force, they feel like they have the luxury of being able to go ahead and make a couple of small, minor additions. If for no other reason than to prop up the lie that there's some smattering of truth. You can have some amount of confidence in the white media, because after all, they admitted that it was absurd to say that the royal family of England was somehow all genetically the same, all genetically. It's absurd to say that. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
absurd now. Changing their story all the freaking time. That's what they're doing. So as these guys are forced to have to admit the truth, little by little, as the thing that you and I have been saying as we thought it was in isolation, they've been hearing us. And we know they've been hearing us because from time to time they've had no choice, but they just couldn't take it anymore. We gotta hear debunk this stuff. And what these bears are saying is gaining traction. People are listening. We gotta debunk it. We still have the advantage. We still have the bigger media footprint, the bigger media presence. We gotta find a way to knock it down. Let's go ahead and throw some shade on them. They've had no choice but to do that. That's how you know that saying places like this has had the desired effect. And the bastards have been hearing it, and they've tripled their furies, and there's nothing they can do about it. And now they're being forced to admit, slowly but surely, drip by drip, they're forced to admit that, yeah, yet another thing that they claim to be lying about, nope, the Negroes were on the money, black folks called it right, yeah, and they're forced to backtrack. We weren't the ones who were forced to backtrack. We're not the ones forced to backpedal. We're not the ones forced to have to relent on a prior assertion. They are. They're the ones who spent hundreds of years saying that the royal families of Europe had pure genetics. And the only thing they would say is, well, maybe they're not all Anglo-Saxon. Maybe there's some French in there, or maybe some smattering of Scottish. You know, maybe some rogue Irishman, guest appearance in the family tree. That's what they were trying to say. Now they're going ahead and saying what a lot of us have been saying over the longest time. Now the white is admitting to something. Well, it's absurd to suggest that the royal families wanted pure genetics, even though that's the main assertion they've been for 100 years. That's the freaking European royal families claim to think that their genetics are pure. Why, we have chronicled our family tree for hundreds of years. This is to let white folks down east. Just to let them know, this thing with Charlotte Sophia von Mecklenburg, this is just the first domino. That's what this is. So I know there's going to be more to come because the white media's already telegraphed it. I've studied the white supremacists my entire life. I speak fluent Peckerwood. I know full well when these guys are trying to set the stage for some future confessions that they feel that they're going to be forced to make. They're not going to do it immediately. See, they don't want this to become a freaking tsunami of truth where you have to admit, okay, everything we've been saying is bullcrap and the black folks are right. Yes, there was significant black presence in Europe. In fact, the royal families all the way to the coat of arms were a hoax. Had images of black people, and there was a reason for it. Corsica, the island where Napoleon came from. City's coat of arms. There's a Moor on there. One of the Moors with that white sash they would have with the pearl necklace. minutes. For God's sake, it's a hell of a lot more. We'll be here till 5 in the morning. We'll be here till 5 years from now, just chronicling just the coat of arms alone. Dr. Jose Clemente, among other people, telling that truth. I mean, it's been out there for a long while, but it hasn't been as taught by white people. See, that's what
They don't want them to know.
No, because they don't want you to have the techniques to be able
to truth.
Whatever is spoken,
because like if you're running shit, hold on. Now we actually have to listen to the show and the show.
For the longest time, we've been attacked. Those same people are now being forced to have to backpedal. See, that's the value of knowing the truth, standing on it. When it comes time for there to be an argument, even if the white media pretends as if we got the bigger media megaphone, these Negroes are just peddling feel-good fantasy for a bunch of people whose races are thing. We don't have to win the argument through noise or volume. We win it through evidence and by never backing down. On a long enough timeline, the truth comes to the surface, and when it does, they're the ones who have to say, the Negroes are right. Oh, look over here, Donald Trump said something else stupid. Yeah, so I want you guys to go ahead and let that marinate for a while. Don't worry about this Meghan Markle one. The truth is also going to come out about her little would-be fairy tale is going to turn into a freaking nightmare soon enough. And when it does, it ain't got a damn thing to do with us. I don't feel good for her, and I don't feel sorry for her either. I don't feel glee at what I know is going to happen, nor do I feel badly about it. They're irrelevant. They're only important to the extent that we are able to use them for the sake of pushing our agenda. So any discussion about